feel something change inside of me. The inner human slowly dead in me. I feel it come alive. The darkness brings me light. There ain't no stopping it, and you will never hide from me. Pain of the change. What have I become? A creature of the night, ruled by moonlight. The pain of the change. This body's no longer mine. Feel wild and free, but caged at the same time. It's hard to be human, think human, feel human. A hunger's arising inside of me. The beast is alive and break it free. It's hard to be human, think human, feel human. Keep putting more chains on the beast. Hope it don't break loose. You better hope so too. I'm still inside. I'm still here. What have I done? When did this all start? I have become a monster in the dark. A hunger like no other. Running on instinct. What's this creature? Always inside of me. The pain of the change. What have I become? A creature of the night, ruled by moonlight. The pain of the change. This body's no longer mine. Feel wild and free, but caged at the same time. It's hard to be human, think human, feel human. A hunger's arising inside of me. The beast is alive and break it free. It's hard to be human, think human, feel human. Keep putting more chains on the beast. Hope it don't break loose. You better hope so too. You better hope so too. You better hope so too.
Who's holding my hand in the darkness? Seeing ghosts down the hallway. There's a presence, bedroom shadows, cloaked and haunting me. Cold hand touching me. Fear overwhelming me. Tapping at my window. I can't bear to open my eyes. A breath on my neck, floating out songs, hypnotic hymns, promises of bliss, swirling and swirling, the warmth of the ocean, spinning with souls in motion. Take caution, my friend, this could be the end. A mermaid's tale, you're mortal, so frail. Following ships in the night, catching glimpses, but can you trust your sight? In the water your blood will spill, hypnotized by your song of lies. Swirling and swirling, the warmth of the ocean, spinning with souls in motion. Take caution, my friend, this could be the end. A mermaid's tale, you're mortal, so frail. I'm a figment of your imagination. Our beauty, our song, intoxicating, mesmerizing sound, ships running round. In calm or storm, you won't see the shore. Your final resting place, the ocean floor. Swirling and swirling, the warmth of the ocean, spinning with souls in motion. Take caution, my friend.
All right, folks. Of course, that song is written by my wife. It's a mermaid song. What's everybody up to tonight? It's a Sunday, beautiful Sunday. I know I've been very, very busy. The last few days have been just freaking nightmare. Nightmare. But we use that term loosely because there are people. Can we move the camera over just a tad?
Yeah.
There are people who actually do go through nightmares. And then there's people that have the nightmares that seem to come true. And one of the listeners that gave us a story tonight, that's how she described it to us. She said it was like a living nightmare. Oh, wow. Dead spider. At least it's dead. What the heck? An alive spider.
The only good one's a dead one.
Tiny little thing. It was black. Ugh. But so I think on Thursday, when we did the show on Thursday, we talked about what was her name, Stella.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's quite elderly now. She's like 81 years old. And like in her own admission, her memory's not as good, but thank goodness she has two daughters and a son and several nieces and nephews that were pretty cool. I didn't get to meet all of them, but I did speak to a couple different people in her family. And she had me on a conference call that I was able to glean a lot of information. And so we're going to go over that. They used to have land, and part of the family still, now this isn't a Hernandez ranch, at least, I mean, we don't know yet. I mean, it could be because I haven't talked to all the family and they haven't told me all their stuff. But everybody knows about the Texas Dogman Triangle, right? You know what that is.
Yeah.
And I don't, and I love Aaron Dees, and I love Small Town Monsters. That's a friend of mine, and so is Aaron. But I don't know that they got it right when it comes to, and I'm not correcting them. You know, somebody tried to say last week, I said something about Martin Groves, and I knew they would.
Expanding on the idea.
I didn't say anything bad about Martin. What I was talking about was his book, not to be confused. The Devil's Backbone is not the same as the Devil's Backbone here in Texas. That's, of course, they ran over there and they're like, "Hey, he's talking bad about you." Golly, these people. Like, and these are the people. These people have to be the ones that are confused about their pronouns, because you act like old washerwomen that would do that. You know, that was the old saying. You know, they go down there by the creek and they wash and then they gossip. That's kind of their job. You know, my grandma, she wasn't too big of a gossiper, but my great aunt was, and I loved her dearly. But she could gossip with the best of them, and she loved to gossip. And then one day I said something to her. She's most sides, we say. And she's like, "Well, I'm 79. What else is there to do?" And she's right. Like at that age, you know, what else is there? You know, like, you know, but when you're a man in your 40s and 50s, 30s, 40s and 50s, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, grow up. Okay. And take personal responsibility and hygiene and other things you need to do. All right. Very, very ecstatic that Texas beat Kentucky yesterday.
Yeah, it was a big one.
I had that game is personal for me. The Kentucky one. I wanted them to beat Kentucky, just like I wanted them to beat Oklahoma. And I was very proud that they beat the crap out of Oklahoma, because there's things in Oklahoma that live up there that I don't care for. And I'm so glad that they beat the crap out of Oklahoma. And Kentucky got its ass beat by Texas. Can't stress it enough. And next Saturday, the coup de grace, they shall destroy A&M. On Kyle Field, we will beat A&M, and that one is very personal for me too, because there's dumb Aggies. There's some not now. Just being an Aggie doesn't make you dumb, but there are people who are dumb, very, very dumb ass Aggies. Big dumb Aggies. They're dumb as hell. They have a lot of them that root for that team. Now, I was cool with rooting for them until they just would not stop with their bullcrap. The Aggies are just incorrigible. The fans are nuts. And they always claim Texas is worrying about them. Texas don't give a crap about you, dude. Okay? You're just in the way. Y'all the ones that can play any other school on earth, and you're worried about Texas. Well, you better worry, because this coming Saturday, we're going to A&M. And I don't know. Ewers just hurt, and he's playing hurt. But they need to put Arch in there and just let him do it, because the way he was playing toward the end of the Kentucky game, even though they managed to just destroy him, he may not be so good against that Aggie pass rush. So I'm hoping that Arch will do it. He can, because either one of them is great.
Oh yeah,
you know, and just really kick the Aggies' ass, because the Aggies have lost 3 games, but yet and we've lost 1. So somehow, if they beat us, because they go by the conference wins, whatever, which is stupid. The tiebreakers should be, you know, wins, losses, and just all together. You know, it's not correct. But if they beat us, then they go to the conference championship against Georgia, which I don't think that's correct, but whatever. So we most definitely, though, we need to, now that we haven't played them in like 13 years. This coming back party, they need to just go in there and destroy them. Because like I said, it's personal. There's a couple people who I absolutely know that they worship the Aggies. That's their whole identity, that and doing other stupid things like stalking people. So your Aggies will be destroyed by my horns. You'll be gored by the horns. It's so funny to me when they do this down, because if the horns are down like that, that means you're getting gored and you're on the ground. I know how bulls work, and that's what happens. If their head's down like that, that means that they got you on the ground. So doing this, you know, you better hope they're up like that, because that means they're just looking for you.
What's funny, the name of the Oklahoma team is the Sooners. People, I don't think they really thought that one through, because the Sooners are people who got shot because they were trying to steal land before everyone else.
They were jumping. They were land jumpers. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, if you were a Sooner, you got shot. That's what those people were.
That's what the term was. And then the Aggie is just not only is it's a stupid name. It's just a stupid name. What is an Aggie? I mean, like you got agriculture. I get it. It's agriculture and mechanics. What's so funny to me is the conservative people that gravitate toward A&M because they think it's a super conservative school. Do you realize that the foreign population outnumbers you there? Did you know that? Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So I don't know. They gravitate toward it because they think I'm a big dumb redneck, so I'm gonna argue. You know, and that's whatever. Now I will say this: I rooted for A&M week in and week out in the SEC because they were the only Texas team in the SEC. But now that Texas is back in there, you know, all I hear for them is a bunch of trash talk. So go to hell. Okay. You can't sit there and down Texas every week when you're not even playing them. And it's not the players themselves, and it's not the coach, it's not the, you know, it's the fans. They're obnoxious. That's why a lot of people don't like the Cowboys. They don't like the fans. They win one game, they're like, we're going to the Super Bowl. They beat Washington today. We've turned it around. We're going to shut up. Okay. You lost every meaningful game already. Yeah. Now, granted, if they win out or if they just lose one more game and they don't lose any more, they'll probably make the playoffs. So they could have the privilege of being stomped by better teams like Green Bay or Minnesota, or God forbid you play the Lions again. And you know, they're going to get the crap beat out of them. So it's really stupid the way people do things. We're waiting for it to fill up to 300, but so yeah, we have a lot of stuff going on here at PRT. A lot. We have gotten so much work to do. We have a lot of work to do, and it comes at an inopportune time. You know, I'm happy, but we have a lot going on. Yeah. But we can't stop the show. We can't just say, hey, we're not going to do Sunday, you know, because we got things to do, blah, blah, blah. We go to close on this house, which they threw us a curveball at the end, and they said, oh, guess what? You need 6 months of reserves. So we managed to go and round it up. And thank God we have friends. Yeah. Because we never could have done it without the friends. Now, that's just reserve. You got to show that, you know, but you have to have it. And so they've made us jump through every hoop and every flaming hoop, and the hoop's getting smaller and smaller, you know. Gabrielle says, can't spell today. We forgive you. We forgive you. We have a lot of slow fans that are like, hey, I'm kidding.
Just blame autocorrect.
Actually, we don't have a lot of slow. Our fans are very quick, very smart people. But so anyway, you left those two things there. Are you going to eat those or what? Because they're just they're going to get, you know, crushed. I almost put my hand on one of them. But anyway, that's what's going on. You know, that's enough about football and whatever's going on. My Texans lost today. I was not happy about that. Not happy. I didn't get to watch the game. I was busy doing things with family. So yeah. I don't understand, though, why some people, their whole identity, you have shows, okay? Why don't you worry about yourself? Your whole identity is me. Your whole identity is hating me. Why don't you just do? That reminds me of the Aggies with the Longhorns, the way they are. They're obsessed with TU. They think calling it TU is an insult, or they think this is an insult. Your name is Aggie, okay? That should be the insult right there. You couldn't come up with anything better? I mean, there's a million things you could have called yourself. You could have called yourself the A&M Cowboys.
That would have been cool.
That would have been cool. A&M Cowboys.
A&M Outlaws.
A&M Outlaws. I mean, instead, they're the Aggie. Like, we're agriculture. You know what we're going to call ourselves? The Aggies. We're farmers. The farmies. You know, like, could come up with anything better? We're roofers, the roofies.
There you go, Amy. A&M Armadillos. That would have been cool too.
A lot of different names that could have been called. Instead, whatever. Bubba says, I've never heard of that. Never built a house. I'm not building a house. I'm buying a house. and it's we together are buying a house. Not building one. Too much.
Mm-hmm.
Too much trouble. Too much red tape. Too much everything. And people nowadays, they want like, you know, you build a house and it's like they want, you know, you're building something. Oh, you want that permit? You know? No. Too much. Yeah, Jason Bizarre, Aggie jokes. There you go. Bubba says our college in Greensboro and A&T Aggies. There's a New Mexico Aggies too. I mean, but what is that? Why name it the Aggies? Or is it Florida A&M that's the Aggies? One of them. It's either Florida or New Mexico. They're the Aggies. I don't know why. There's so many other names you could name it, but the Aggies. I get that it's the agriculture thing, whatever, but I don't approve. And like I said, I rooted for them. And, you know, being in the SEC, they kind of represented Texas. But now that Texas is there, they're acting stupid and writing. Look at my Facebook. I put an article in there that they wrote, just talking crap, saying everybody in the SEC is tired of Texas. No, you're angry because Texas is there and they used to beat the crap out of you every year, and so now you're mad because we're over there where you're at now. You thought you could hide and run from us. Well, you can't. We're back. And now I really hate them again because just the way that the fans are. They're so damn obnoxious that they've made me dislike them. Just like the Cowboys. Just so it gets just too much. It's just stupid. And Jerry Jones, man, oh my God, don't get me started on this guy. I think we got to just shut up. Okay, go get another facelift. You 89-year-old mummy, whatever you are, whatever he is. He's a mummy walking around. He's one of the Rockefellers. He looks like it anyway. Every time he opens his mouth, I just want to puke. I'm looking for something, and then I can't remember what it was. Yeah, exactly. Jerry Jones is going to outlive all of us. He's already outlived a lot of good people. You know, it's crazy. Ben Full Hat says my dad doesn't like Aggies. Yeah, I don't either. That's one thing me and my dad have in common. We dislike them. You know, I did start watching them though over the last decade or so because, like I said, they represented Texas. But now we're playing them, and they're acting their same old obnoxious selves again. The trash talk has already begun. And here in Austin, there's, believe it or not, even though Texas is based here, there's a lot of Aggie people that live here. A lot of them, and they spray paint and vandalize and stuff. Whenever they would come to Austin every other year, it was a nightmare because they would vandalize cars. And these weren't like a bunch of thugs. These were just obnoxious frat boys.
Yeah, college kids.
Kids, yeah. And I'll never forget they vandalized Squid's car. Boy, that was a big mistake, and we caught them doing it. Lessons were learned that day. You know, and they're all like, "Sorry, man, sorry." Like, no, you're gonna be. You're not sorry, right? You're gonna be real sorry. You know, I think some fingers were broken along with some other things. They weren't spray painting anything anymore, and they were like promising never to do it again. I was like, this is like you do this every year. They're very destructive fans. Some of the most hateful fans I can say them, but then Arkansas too, when they came to play play UT one year, they were hateful. Like they despise Texas. And I'm like, Arkansas, like who cares? Like, you know, they have these like one-sided rivalry things, you know, and it's like, you know, you took everything from me, and you're like, I don't even know who you are.
Like Calibos on Clash of the Titans. Look what you did to me! Look what you did to me!
You're like, no, your mom and dad did that by making you. It's their fault. But yeah, it's funny because like they'll do this monologue of why they don't, and you're like, oh, this was a life-changing event for you. For me, it was a Tuesday.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of how I feel about some of these people. They're like, oh, I hate the Cowboys. I hate the Longhorns. I'm like, really? What is your team? Buffalo? Oh yeah, we beat y'all in the Super Bowl a couple times. Nobody cares. We don't care. You're not a rival. You know, it was like that in high school too. Like Rockdale, and not I have a lot of friends in Rockdale, but when we beat the crap out of them every year, they were like, we hated you guys. Y'all were our big rival. And I was like, no, not really. We weren't even in the same district. Y'all were just a team we thumped every year on the way to the playoffs. Like, where's the rivalry there? At one point, we beat them like 16 years in a row. Like, there is no rivalry. It's just an ass beating every year. And if you look it up. Look up the score, the times that Texas has played A&M, the lopsidedness, and how many times Texas or TU, as the Aggies call them. Look how many times they've beaten them. It was like 100, to 30 or something like that. It's ridiculous. It's so bad. It's so lopsided. So you're mad and you're throwing cow patties at a brick wall. You know? And they do. They hype these games up more than they should. They hyped up the Oklahoma game, and Texas just went over there and clobbered them. And it's like, what is this? I knew it was going to happen. They were like, oh, man, last year, the refs helped Oklahoma, and they barely beat them. And I'm like, that's not going to happen this year. There's no surprise here, especially when the year before we beat them 49-0. So there were dummies, that were like wanting to bet on the game. And I said, do not bet on Oklahoma. Don't even bet to cover the spread because they're going to be destroyed. And they still did. They're like, oh, no, I'm an Oklahoma fan. Okay. Yeah, whatever. Jetzul says UT too liberal. Oh, God. Are you kidding me? Have you seen A&M? Have you been to the campus lately? That's where A&M that is where they get all of the people who answer phones in the call centers. I go to A&M. I'm not, you just stop with that. That ain't even the case no more. I was up there a few years ago, and that's all that was up there. I mean, it was it's like a foreign school up there. And they still talk about like, there's like all these country people up there. No, they're not. No, they are not. And I don't really care. I mean, y'all the ones that are racist. You want it to be some kind of Klan school or whatever the hell you got going. This is a school for white power. Me and my Aggie buddies got there with the hoods on, we're drinking some Pabst Blue Ribbon. It is a symbol of white power. You raise your hand. Have you noticed you're the only white guy here? I just wanted you to. So you're the only one. Everybody else is foreign. They didn't even understand what you're saying. They just thought they would fit in, so they wore some white sheets. And the leader's like, takes his hood off. I'm the only one left. Oh, damn. Well, Tarbosh, is that your name? Tarbosh, we're going to start a new clan. And it's going to be based on hating the Longhorns. They're like, I don't understand. You don't understand? Okay, look, this is bad. We hate them. Tarbosh. Oh, damn. Peckerhead, some bitch. What? Why? I could just say the dream, another dream. This dream is over. Oh, my hair's messed up. Yeah, I know. I have to blend in with the Aggies. I'm going to infiltrate them next week. I'm going to go up there and be like, is this the meeting? I'm here for the meeting. I got my shotgun. Go kill some guards.
Go get my R-15.
You see this orange? I hate it. I hate this Mothman. I hate him. He's orange. Kill it with fire. Oh, wait, fire's orange. We'll kill it with water. You know what? We'll build a bonfire and the sticks will kill them. Bunch of engineers who can't do it. Can't put together a bonfire. That was a low blow. I shouldn't have said that. I mean, I felt bad. Y'all won that year out of pity. You know that, right? And then there was the debacle where the the hotel that they stayed at over there in A&M food poisoned them. And then one year they didn't give them the wake up calls, and they pull all kinds of shenanigans over there. They have a cult over there in College Station. They literally, you know how the elites worship Moloch? They have a bonfire and all that. The Aggies do the same thing, but they worship,
farm equipment.
Yeah, they worship it's either the big dumb drill sergeant guy with the thumb or the collie dog. I don't know. They worship the collie dog is like the symbol. He's like the avatar for the big dumb guy. They worship it. It's groovy to them. Groovy. So, anyways, enough of that. All right, I'm gonna start a team.
Someone on there said that you have too many teeth to blend in.
Yeah, too many teeth. I do. I have all of them. Yeah. I'm gonna call my team the Turneries. We're the Josh Turner Turneries.
Turner Knights.
No, the Turneries.
Turneries.
Agriculture, Aggies.
Ah.
Farmers, Farmies. Roofers, Roofies.
The Turnies.
The Turnies. I'm the Turnies. We're the Texas Turnies. Where'd you get that name from? I thought it up myself. Me and my sister wife was just sitting around thinking, oh, you should go come up with a name that your Turnies. Put it on paper. Well, maybe we should think this through. You always thinking, Jed. That's your damn problem. Over here in College Station, we do not think. We let the thousands and thousands and thousands of non-Americans that go to our school think for us. And then we stay racist. They look around, they're like, there's only 12 of us now. Yeah, exactly. And we got to be supreme. Because I like my pizza. Supreme. Can I get that supremacist special? They're like, no, understand you exactly. You don't get it. All right, so anyway, enough of that, enough talk about these people. They have the retardation. And afterwards, I forgive you, I will pardon you, and I will allow you to be my friend again. Okay? But not until after you are destroyed. I hate to see you scattered to atoms, but it must happen. So we have stories. So what happened with this woman? Her name was Stella, right? And she got in touch with us. And of course, she wasn't sitting around listening to the show. Her brother was. And her brother, his son was the one who said, hey, my wife listens to this. And I will be brutally honest, this goofy show. I admire your honesty. She was just like,
It does get goofy, though.
Well, but this guy was like, he's like, he listens to this goofy. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with a good-natured ribbing, I'll see you in the dark alley. Don't worry. I'm joking. I'm joking. These are elderly. I'm not going to be like that.
Don't look outside your window.
I'll come at your house. Pretending to be a FedEx guy, deliver a big old turd in a box for you. No, seriously, what happened was he goes, my son-in-law listens to this goofy show. And he told me, he says, he talks about the kind of things that went on out at the ranch or ranches. It was divided up into four, I believe. And then he says, yeah, Stella. Stella. If you're a fan of Jerry Seinfeld's show, but yeah, Stella. So anyway.
Streetcar named Desire.
Yeah. So he tells him, he says, I got this guy, so when I talked to her, it was very interesting. She had emailed me, and when I messaged her back, it was hard to get this person because she's not real familiar with email. So the daughter, who is still a lot older than me, actually messaged me back and says, hey, my son's helping me email you. My mother wanted us to reach out and talk because my great uncle, or her uncle, it would have been the son's great uncle, whatever. And so when she got on the phone with me, she was like very straight up, like, she's like, yeah, well, I told my brother because he was like, yeah, my son-in-law told me about this goofy show, and I don't know if you're interested. He goes, but I watched a couple episodes and it was interesting. But he made it sound like they tied him to a chair and forced him through waterboarding to listen to the show. And he's like, yeah, I listened to some of it, and whatever. But good thing he did, because then she was like, you know what? I'd like to tell you the story of our family. So she went through and told me several stories. One of them, of course, we told last week about the Bigfoot with the black goo stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. So she has a son, and golly, he's got a lot of information. So I managed to get in touch with him, and then one of the daughters, we'd gone back and forth. And then when I was talking to one of the daughters, one of the cousins was there, and I heard her in the background, which is this, Anthony, you've heard it. They do that. They're in the background. Tell them about the closet.
Yeah.
What happened in the closet, So yeah, it got real deep. There was a lot. And I told them some things too that I had collected, so that they're not crazy, because that area out there is very haunted, for lack of a better term. There's stories on Reddit, there's stories all over the internet of people seeing rake type creatures. What the rake is, if you're not familiar with it, it's that pale crawler thing that looks like Boy George. Joking. What's going on?
Nothing.
Jerry86 says, stop yapping, SA. Just tell the story. Okay. Get rid of Jerry86. We'll see you, Jerry. I got it. I'll dump him. Ban user and delete their comment. There you go. Now, Jerry, you'll never have anything to say again. Go make another fake account. That's probably the same guy, Juan Ramirez, that did what he did on the comment section. I read that. I left it there. I told him to leave it there. Leave the comments up. I don't care. So when I talked to these people, they were very adamant that this stuff had been going on for a while. I'm talking like not Stella. It was that land belonged to her grandfather. And I'm not going to give you an exact location, because I said a little bit. You go back and listen to Thursday, and I think I did say where it was. Okay. But I just, for future, I'm not going to do it, because Dwight, the guy that I talked to, his name was Dwight, and he said, can you please not give people our location, because they do have family members still living out there. And they've sold part of that land too to the neighbors, and the neighbors are not interested in people, because I asked if we could go out there and look around. Now, he said that he would talk to his cousin and see if that was okay with them. He thinks it is, but you gotta be careful. It's deer season, and this is probably not the time to go do it. So we probably have to wait until spring, because then it's going to be too damn cold to be out there. But a lot of these encounters went on out there. And I think it does rival the Hernandez Ranch. Being that this is kind of toward the beginning of this, we don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes. And I say hole because actually there is a giant hole out there. There is a giant hole in the middle of that. Well, not in the middle, but in the northeast corner, actually, of that property. There is a giant hole that they don't know how deep it is. But they closed it off because things were happening, including their cattle were falling into that hole and never being seen again. And then there were people, there was at least 2 times where livestock, once it was a sheep and another time it was a cow, that were grabbed by a creature and drugged down into that hole. I think it's interesting because out there where they're at, they've seen this giant, the only way I could describe it, that they described it to me, was a giant monitor lizard looking thing that normally would crawl around on all fours, but that it could get upright. And now I got to say this, the Hernandez Ranch, I have not heard any reptilian activity out there. Have you?
No.
I don't think they told us anything about reptilians. This one struck a chord with me because they talked about a giant lizard creature. But there again, it was very much like a kind of like the ones we were talking about out in Big Bend in that Southwest Texas area. Mm-hmm. And now you got to remember Texas, the way it's shaped. Go look at a map. When you talk about Southwest Texas, that's not South Texas. Okay. two different things. You're talking about the South Texas, that is the valley. Then you kind of go up, and you get up to Del Rio, and then you keep going, and then you go and you get up into that panhandle area, which I swear to you, I think has changed through the Mandela effect. I keep saying that, and people think I'm crazy, but that's the truth. But I could tell you this, you look at that Southwest corridor there, and then you start getting into some weird territory. You have Bigfoot, Dogman, and reptilians, and all kinds of crap. That's especially on the border. So I think it's really to me. I think that the Dogman triangle thing is inaccurate. I think it's incorrect, and that's not taking anything away from my beloved colleague Aaron Deese. Aaron wrote his book same time I did, and we communicated, and we didn't step on each other's toes. Nice guy, great guy. But I think it just sounded more appealing, to say, oh, there's a triangle, but because I was looking at the triangle the other day, and there's somebody that made an episode of some guy. I couldn't listen to him. He was just cussing. That's all he did was cuss. I was like sitting there going, like, I'd like to watch this, but this is just every other word was the F word and G damn. And I'm like, God dang, what is wrong with this guy? I can't even tell a story without cussing up a storm. And he talk like this, and I was like, I'm good. I'm not going to even say the name of the channel. Me and Nellie tried to watch it, and we got through 10 minutes, and that was it.
Was it 10 minutes?
Well, we jumped around, probably. And it just was, we jumped to different spots, and it was a cuss word. I'm not even joking. It was Uncle something. That's all I'm going to say. Okay?
Uncle Cusser.
Uncle Cussy. Uncle Cussy. And so what ended up happening with that, like I looked at this triangle. So I looked it up, and and I was looking at it on the computer, and I'm like, that's not correct. That's like Black Aqua, saying that the Dogmen go all the way around Texas and then go to Louisiana. Yeah. No, they don't. Okay, bullshit. Okay, nice try though, because there's a lot of activity here, and it doesn't involve them migrating around Texas because somehow Texas is one big food desert.
Yeah, let's just go around all the cattle.
Let's go around all the cattle and all the food and everything, and let's go and then we go up and then down into Oklahoma. That had to be one of the dumbest things I'd ever seen. But people, in this yeah, and so it was so much just, it's too hard to take. So I'm going to tell you that the true skinny on this. I'm going to give you the 411, the truth. That triangle is incorrect. If you want to make a triangle, this thing would look more like a weird rhombus. Okay, I don't know what to tell you. But the entire state of Texas is inundated with reports. Now, if you're just talking about Dogman, just Dogman itself, then there's no triangle. It's the entire state. And it goes into New Mexico, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. I've gotten reports from all over the freaking place, and I know my colleagues have too. I talk to them all the time about these reports. I don't know where this triangle came from. Now, it sounds cool to say San Antonio, then it runs through Austin, then it goes up into Dallas, Fort Worth, then it goes down to Houston. You're discounting a lot of area around it, okay? Especially when I looked at the Austin, San Antonio area, and I'm thinking west of there is a shit ton of it, okay? Not to emulate Uncle Cussy, but, seriously, there's a heck ton of it. And I'm like, what is this map? Like, who did this? I mean, if you drink a whole lot, I guess you could probably go up with a map like that, But no, I mean, it was ridiculous. So when you talk to the people like this person here, and like I said before, there seems to be like a sort of we kind of want to put things in boxes, right? Like we were like, well, Taylor has the Dogman, predominantly. That's where it's what you see, not really Bigfoot. And then, Giddings has that weird Bigfoot, what is it, Dogman, the Gugwe type creature that we keep hearing about. Thorndale's got those weird those smaller, ugly, evil Bigfoot looking things.
You have the Haskell Rascal.
The Haskell Rascal, which is like a short-faced Dogman looking creature, scraggly hair. Some people describe it as a cat, a giant cat on two legs, but I think that's a misnomer. The area out there, which really does make a triangle out there by, Thorndale, Nowak, whatever, you get, these cat people, werecat type things, whatever, Lawrence Cemetery. And my research has taken me to these different places, west of Kerrville, a lot of Bigfoot type stuff going up into Bandera and then to San Antonio. So you got all these different areas that have different creatures, different, and then Elgin is known for the Lechusa. There's people who have seen this thing. Like I've interviewed about 5 people. My mom used to have a friend that you remember her? She had the son who thought he was a rapper.
Yeah.
And I was talking to her one night, and she was talking about the Lechusa, and and so your grandmother, Anthony, used to talk about how there was a Lechusa in Elgin,
mm-hmm.
and everybody was like, "Oh, be careful! When you go to Elgin, the Lechusa will get you," And so, but people see Dogman and Elgin just like they see Lechusa and Taylor because they're only like 12 miles apart. But it's predominant. Those are the ones you mainly hear about in those particular towns. Why that is, I don't know. It could be a territorial thing. It's very possible that it is a territory thing. But we got lots of these crawler stories in the area outside of Caldwell, from Milano to Caldwell. I counted 3 in particular, and there was another guy who claimed that he knew someone else who had seen one in between Cameron and Milano. So if you look at a map, if you were to pull up a map on Texas, you could see what we're talking about. So we've had many, many people tell us who have moved here. They're like, dude, what in the hell? Like, what's going on in Central Texas? Why is there so much weird shit out here? I can't tell you. I know that Taylor has an artesian well where we get our water from. Now, at one time, it was the largest or deepest artesian well in the world. Now, that could be something to that because it comes out of the inner earth. So when I was talking to these people, Stella said that there was this creature that looked like a reptile. Now, so far from the multiple different people involved in this, only one person saw this thing. His name was Joseph. Saw this thing, and Dwight told me this. He said there's only one person, that was his cousin Joseph, who saw this thing stand up and run on its hind legs. He was on horseback. And this happened in 1982. No, I'm sorry.
Did he give a
I
description?
think it was
of
1987.
Did he say what it looked like?
1987. What did he say it looked like? He said it looked like you need to pay attention, catch up, keep up. No, he said it looked like an upright, like it was on all fours, like a giant monitor lizard, like people have described.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they didn't know what a monitor lizard was. They just described it, and then you're thinking, okay, this is like a monitor lizard. But it had big teeth that would stick out of its mouth. Now, if you go back and you look at the fossil records and you go and you do a bunch of Ken Gerhard type stuff, you'll find that there was a creature like this. And I can't even pronounce its name. It's like Dasalkabalingimanilabilabum, some crap. And I don't have it in front of me, and I don't want to sit here and have to look it up.
You're speaking reptilian. Apparently.
But this thing stood up on its hind legs, and then the short legs, according to Joseph, popped forward. There was like this, and it ran real fast on its hind legs. That doesn't make it a humanoid creature. That just means it was able to stand up and move on its hind legs real fast.
Mm-hmm.
And it was described to Dwight as wobbling real fast, and then it ran down and got into that hole. There are multiple of these creatures. We know that there are multiple of these creatures because they've been seen. More than one has been seen. And what ends up happening, they grabbed one of their cattle, and they basically, and I don't want to get too graphic here, but one of the ranch hands saw it get taken apart, and then drug into two pieces down into this hole. So they decided that this is what they did. They went into town. This was back in the 1880s when this first, so her grandfather owned this ranch, and now you got to remember, she's 81 years old. Her grandfather, was pretty up there in age when she was born. So anyway, back in the 1880s, and they had it since before then. It was like right around the Civil War when they purchased it. It was after the Civil War, actually. Right after the Civil War, he came back and got a job. And her great-grandfather was a soldier in the Civil War. And he came back and had nothing, but he went to work for a carpetbagger who had taken over. And then that guy basically, once the now back then, Democrats, Republicans is a lot different than it is now. Once they got back in control, the carpetbagging stopped and they were driven out of this area. Anyway, I've done a lot of research on that. And those were people who came after the Civil War. And I'll tell you why this is important, because you'll know the history. They came after the Civil War basically to rape the South. You know what I mean? Just that's what they did. I don't mean physically with people, but to take everything. And, people were poor, starving, and the federal government was extremely harsh on the Confederates, harsh. And if you think that they were trying to help the African Americans, no, they didn't care about them either. They couldn't believe that the people down here were even around them. They were just like, "Ooh, I wouldn't want a slave because I don't want to be around them." They were very bigoted. And I heard a lot of stories. My friend Theo, who I've been friends with forever, his grandmother had told me about her father. This was way back when we were kids, about how bigoted the Yankees were when they came down here. They were supposed to be trying to help these black people, but they didn't. They mistreated them, and they left it to the Southerners to ration food for them. They wouldn't feed them. And they barely fed the Southerners. It was bad. The federal government did some very horrible things. It was very bad. The truth has been distorted and twisted and just completely, it's not correct what people tell you. My grandfather talked about it because his grandfather told him about what it was like trying to dig in the earth for a potato. People starved to death. They didn't do anything for us. And believe me, I live down here. They took all of our cotton and they forced the black people to work for practically nothing. And they wouldn't let the whites have a job. But so they would give them rations. And so it was really bad. The carpetbagging was extremely bad. These people came down here and they did what they did. So that's what, so what he did was he got a job for a carpetbagger who had seized someone's land for pennies on the dollar. Well, you're talking about, Betsy Barnes says the Southerners mistreated Union prisoners. Yeah, you're talking about war. I'm talking about what they did after the war. What they did after the war is very well chronicled by my people down here. Okay? We're talking about what they did to the South after the war. Inexcusable. When you had Grant the drunk because they murdered Lincoln, and I'm telling you, we could get into that one day. They killed Lincoln so they could do that because Lincoln wasn't going to let them do that. So they got him to fight the war, kill states' rights, and then they killed him so that he couldn't stop them from doing what they wanted to do, which was to steal everything. And that's what they did. And they mistreated people. And they created some of the paranormal phenomena around our area. The guy that rides the horse with no head, they didn't just kill him and remove his head. They killed his former slaves that were with him, that stayed with him. They tried to protect him. They murdered them. Their ghosts are seen all over the place now in that area. In the Hoxie Bridge area. So it's a very sad, tragic period, right? So anyway, her grandfather, what he did was he worked for this carpetbagger and he managed to buy a little bit of the land And then he worked and worked and worked. And it was him and some of the field hands that were African Americans, and they all worked for these carpetbaggers. And eventually they were given a little something. So they put their money together and they actually bought that land, and they shared it. There was an African American family. They were crop sharing. They had, basically they were indentured servants together to these carpetbaggers. But eventually when the tide turned, about 10, 15 years after the war, new administration comes in. Long story short, they were able to push them out and take back what was theirs. And so what they did was, there was an African American family that lived in that northwest corridor. That's where that hole was. And eventually they sold their land and they moved further south near Elgin, that family. They were called the Pullers. And so they sold that. Of course, the federal government was like, we're going to give you 40 acres and a mule. You can't find one person down here they got no 40 acres and a mule, because the carpetbaggers came and said, hey, you can wait around for that, or we can give you $10 so you won't starve to death. $10? That's a lot of money at that time. I'll take the $10. You know how many actually got their 40 acres and a mule? Maybe 24 families. Yeah, another little federal trick they did. Yeah, I know all about it, so they can't tell me. And I'm half Hispanic, so I'm just telling you, this is what they did, okay? And if you were Hispanic, you didn't get anything. Forget it. In fact, you were just like a Comanchero or a Comanche or a Kiowa. You were treated like you were some kind of wild Indian, basically, and you were killed. In fact, the federal government wiped out most of the Hispanics right after the war in that area, considering them to be hostiles. See, I don't want to hear about how great they were and what they did, because they weren't. Okay, it's just the truth. It is the unadulterated truth. This is our history, not the fake crap that they tell you on the History Channel, Bizarro World, on the Hitler Channel. The History Channel, where the truth is history. But yeah, so that's what happened. So they ended up with this land, but the Puller family that was there, they were black people. They said, look, there's a hole here, and there's stuff coming out of this hole. And they had goats. They became goat farmers, and they had like 3 acres that they farmed for themselves, and then there were 10 acres that they shared that they farmed, and then there was another 60 down below that still belonged to the carpetbaggers, who eventually, like I said, they were given a choice. You can stick around and we'll make your life really miserable, or you can sell our land back to us and go away. So they did. So they were able to get most of it back. But of course, they made out like bandits because they robbed everybody. A lot of them just moved into town and opened, textile stores and, dry goods, things like that. Mm-hmm. And eventually they were driven out too, because people are like, hey, we don't like you. Go away. They did nothing for anybody, nothing good anyway. They were just a bunch of thieves. And so what ended up happening, that 60 or 62 acres, according to Dwight, got divided by the Pullers and them. And then there was a third family, and their family, they had a cholera or something, and they all died. They passed away. And so that land got taken to auction, and then they and another family bought that land, and it sat there vacant for a while because that family couldn't farm it. And then it got turned into what could be farmed on was farmed on, and then the rest was used as ranch land. And so you had this hole that was there, and you had the Pullers saying, look, there's something that's taking our goats. And they had about 100 goats. And this thing was wiping out their herd. That's why they sold and moved. Well, when this other family that we're talking about, Stella's grandparents, when they bought that land, it was barren because these beings, whatever they were, that were coming out of that hole had pretty much ravaged it. And then nothing would grow around that hole. So eventually, after some of those cowboys, and it was actually a vaquero who they called him Juanito. That was his nickname. He was the one that, him and this guy Joseph, and they saw this lizard creature taking whatever. So Joseph rode out there, and he was inspecting the area, and he was alone that day, and he watched it stand up on two legs and go into that hole and crawl down in there. And so if his story is to be believed, these reptilian creatures, there was more than one of them, because Juanito, one of the vaqueros, had said, hey, one of these things had attacked and mauled his horse. And so he made it back to the ranch house, which you're talking about 200 acres from there, and luckily they just got the horse. They found the remnants of the horse, like parts of it. And Juanito had a horrible scratch on his leg that cut through his chaps. Now, when chaps are strong, I mean, those are hard leather. It's made, by cowhide to keep you from, getting hurt.
Yeah.
And he said, thorns and things like that. But he said, dude, it was horrible. Like, it had ripped it down to the bone. So they took him into town to the doctor. And the doctor said, there's nothing we can do. And he got sick. And he eventually succumbed to some sort of illness. Now, I'm going to say this, and I may be off base here, but has anybody heard of the Komodo dragon?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I know you guys have, but I'm asking the audience. Y'all shut up.
Okay.
I'm joking. But do you know what I'm saying? Like the Komodo dragon,
Yeah.
They have, not only, the people don't realize this, that not only is their mouth full of bacteria, so are their claws.
Yeah.
You could survive a scratch, though, easier than you could survive the bite. And they say that nobody's ever survived the bite. That's not true. People have through the use of modern medicine. But this thing has, like, I don't know, something like 46 different nasty bacteria. And it's just disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
It causes sepsis, and then it just bites a poor animal, and then it tracks them down and they lay there and die, and this nasty reptile bastard eats it.
Yeah, a lot of paratroopers know what they are.
They're horrible. Thank you, Sugar Britches, for that donation. That's the first donation of the night.
Sugar!
What's going on here? Do I got to start begging? Huh? Come on now.
Just go for the cult dues. We
The
need
cult dues. Where are my cult dues at? Huh? We got to be like them Aggies. It is a symbol of PRT power.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, thank you, Sugar Bridges. We love you. So what ends up happening? Here's what I'm going to tell you. This creature was seen multiple times by the different cowboys, and then some farmers that had moved in there who had bought like 10 acres or something. They were just a small little farm there. And I don't remember what they said their names were, and it's not important, but they were very what?
They said Ozempic is made from their digestive enzyme.
I'm not even going to comment, Salem Nemesis. I'll post that, but I don't know if that's true, but we'll try to verify that. Someone wants to verify that. We don't trust Sailor. Sailor's like, why me? Because you posted it.
That's the bad guy from Sailor Moon, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who cares?
I don't even know what Sailor Moon is, but whatever.
It's anime.
Anime. Okay, no wonder. So here's what I'm going to tell you. We have these reports, right? So that family, there was only 4 of them. And they lived there for a while, but get this. Do you remember how I told you the story on Thursday, how there was this Bigfoot type creature that was battling with some sort of black goo type stuff? That family was being plagued by something different. That family was being plagued by a tall, 8-foot tall, hairy, bipedal, ape-like looking creature there again that was coming from that hole. These were the people that bought that land. There were 10 acres that they used, and it was adjacent to the Puller's land, and the Puller's land sat vacant for a long time. And so they ended up being plagued by this thing. This thing would go up and pull their crops up, and they tried to plant carrots, potatoes, blah, blah, blah. And this thing would just take them and eat them. And then it killed and ate their animals too, their dogs. They had a bunch of rabbits. And then one night it killed all their rabbits. This is what the family was telling me. So you had this creature The way they described it in the face, one of them came face to face with this coming out of the outhouse. Now, this, you gotta remember, it's like the 1890s now at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it had blacked out eyes. And you wondered about that. The whole eye thing was just black, right? You don't hear that very often with Bigfoot. But what if it's from the black goo? And what if it could be something coming from that hole? What that family did, they got in touch with this family that we were talking to, and they said, let's cover this hole. So they went into town and they got the remedy for a lot of things, dynamite. And they sent some of the cowboys out there, and a couple of vaqueros said, hey, we'll blow it up. Vaqueros are Mexican cowboys. A lot of them worked for the ranchers. And so they went out there and they threw dynamite down in there. And according to what I was told, it was enough dynamite to blow up the entire town of Cameron, Texas. They were like, we could have blew up the entire town with what we threw in there. It collapsed. It caved in to where it was about 8-9 feet, hole down in, like you could jump down in this hole. It's about 8-9 feet. You have to climb back out of it because it was just rubble below it.
Yeah.
The weird thing about that was the area around there. It was a different type of soil. The soil was very chalky. I'm thinking limestone, and the rest of the soil, it turned kind of into like a brown, loamy soil, and then black soil, and then it got back into the sand kind of area. What?
Ozempic is not made from Komodo dragon.
It's not.
Enzymes, no.
Sayla be lying. Why you be lying? Why you be lying?
They said
I
it was
told you.
information that was being spread on Facebook, though.
Why
Can't
you
trust the bad
always
guy
lying?
from Sailor Moon.
We do it.
You can't trust people who watch anime either, except Ninja Scroll and Fist of the North Star. Huh?
You put the camera back on him while he's drinking.
Oh yeah.
I don't care. Put the camera on me. Don't put it on. I don't care. You want a villain? I'm here. They want me to be their villain. So be it. So what ended up happening? Okay, so let's go back to this. They dynamited this hole, and so for decades, like a long time, until like the 60s, I think it was the 50s or 60s, something like that. Let's do the math. They said it was like 7 decades. How many decades is that from the 1890s? What is that? 1950s? Roughly. So until the 1950s, that is when a lot of Texas was so rural that most people in Texas, and I read a percentage at one point, and it was something like damn near 70% of Texas didn't have electricity. Rural Texas
Until like the 50s.
until like 1954 or some crap, where they made a push to say, "Hey, you guys be able to see what you're doing when you're in there wiping your butt? Huh? Would you like that?" They're like, "We're Aggies. We don't wipe. Shut up. That's not a symbol of what? Power." So they go and they put in electrical whatever. So what ended up happening? They wiped power. They put in electrical grid. So they came out there and they went out to the ranch. They said, "We're going to put in power lines." When they started digging, that area, through some of that area through there was rock. So they started, using machinery and stuff to put these poles in. Well, it must have disturbed something, because right after that, there was an uptick in sightings. So in the 50s and 60s, the Bigfoot activity sort of ramped up. People were seeing, at the ranch, they were seeing these red-eyed Bigfoot type creatures that were extremely tall, but they were skinny, kind of lanky looking. It makes me think of like the bad guy from the King Kong movie. He was kind of skinny.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The red one.
He came out like
Yeah.
King Kong's like, Oh, skinny ass dude, what are you gonna do? Whoop your ass. But he had like a bunch of people around him, so he's like, I got all my boys here. What you gonna do? Huh? What you gonna do? King Kong's like, if you have your boys, I'll beat the shit out of you. Well, let me play nice because I'm in your club right now. I'm gonna go get my friend Godzilla. See what happens in, right? But yeah, so these skinny, sort of like rangy looking Bigfoot type creatures with red eyes, and they had wild looking hair. That's just what I was told. And when I talked to Dwight in particular, like he was not him and his wife Rose. She was a very nice lady. But they were describing these creatures and what was told to them as kids. Well, her family lived about 6 miles away on another farm, and they would help each other. That was back in the day, the rural communities, they all helped each other, and they traded crops. And so she says, that's how I met Dwight. She goes, I looked at him, and one look at him, and I thought, that's the ugliest boy I've ever seen. So Dwight and her met when she was 7, and he was, I think he said 10. And he said, I thought she was the prettiest girl ever, and she had nothing to do with me. So 10 years go by, and he finally convinces her that he's a decent dude. And then when they got a little older, and then after high school, they went out and they got married, and they've been together ever since. So congratulations, Dwight. You managed to trigger. I'm kidding, dude. He seems like a really good guy. But she said that. She's like, he was the ugliest boy, big old ears, full of freckles.
Poor kid.
He's like, I grew into my ears. So nice people, though. Very nice people. But when she was a child, she saw one of these creatures. She was on their ranch or their farm trading crops, and they had some sheep that they were going to trade for a cow. And then, this is what they did back in the day. It's just how it was. And one of the pullers that used to work there, used to be own part of that property up in the northeast corner, still worked on that ranch. He was a younger guy. And his name was Lewis. And so Lewis actually was the foreman at that time. And he had a bunch of Mexican vaqueros who worked for him. And there was one white guy named Oliver that worked there. Now, he was another foreman, and he ran the southeast end of it, because at this point, it was about 600, 700 acres of property. That was just the ranch. That isn't counting like the however 100 many acres it was for the farm. They had a hybrid kind of, and then back then, a lot of people, they had farms, and they would have like a few livestock or whatever. It's like we do nowadays in Taylor. It's all hybrid now. Every farmer has cattle.
Yeah.
Everybody has cows, and they have farm. It's both. There's hardly anybody that's just strictly a farmer or just strictly a rancher. They do both. But this was the early days when that was really before the Civil War. It was just you had crops. That was it. Ranchers had ranches. Farmers had farms. You were a sod buster or a cow puncher. You really weren't both. You couldn't be. The modern technology, as it got further and further, was able to make it to where you could do both. So just a little sidelight there. But this is so you get a feel for what I'm talking about. So they would trade crops and animals and stuff. And she says, we were there. She says, I went down to the creek. She's like, and they had a plum tree down there. And she's like, and so Dwight, she's like, he was always stalking me. So I hear these footsteps behind me. This is her story. This is Rose's story. And she says, I hear these footsteps behind me. And she's like, I'm thinking, oh, Dwight's behind me, and she's like 13. She's like, he was always like, hey, Rose, whatever. And she goes, I prepared to turn around and throw a plum right in his face. Just wouldn't stop harassing me. And my dad was always like, hey, Dwight, he's a real go-getter. Wouldn't be so bad, if you married him, because he's got a lot of land and he's going to inherit it and he's got, whatever. So she was like, he was pushing her, and her older sister was going to marry another dude from the other side of Rockdale. So they had had their futures planned out, and she's like, I didn't like this boy. I did not like him. I didn't want to marry this dude. And so she's like, I picked a rotten plum off the tree. She's like, it had worms. So I was going to turn around. I was going to throw it in his face. She goes, I turn around. She goes, and I see this creature standing there. She's like, and it was on all fours. She goes, and then it stood up. She's like, and it was a thin, gray, wolf-headed creature. She's like, and it was staring at me. She goes, she goes, I'll never forget this, the evilest look on its face. She said it kind of turned its head and looked both ways, like observing to make sure that she was alone. And she's like, I could see the house up on the hill. And I said, how many yards away do you think? She goes, I don't know yards. I mean, I said, okay, football. Think of a football field. And she's like, oh, gosh, I don't know. She goes, maybe from the end zone to the 50-yard line is about 50 yards. I was like, okay. And she's like, and I wanted to yell. She goes, and when I went to yell, she's like, it was like it spoke in my mind. Like, and it told me, don't do that. And she was like, my vocal cords shut down. She's like, I could not vocalize. Help me. I couldn't speak. She goes, the fear was just unbelievable. And so she said that she was standing there and she wanted to scream for help, but she couldn't. And she goes, I felt like I was stranded on an island with a shark right there in front of me. I said, well, you kind of were. And she's like, and he was in between me and going up that hill to where the main house was. And she's like, and I looked at the creek and it was flowing pretty heavily. It had been raining. And she's like, I thought about just jumping in the creek and letting it take me, you know. And she goes, and this thing took one more step toward me. And she goes, and something even weirder happens. She's like, I look over and I see this, what looks like a giant lizard looking thing come crawling up over this little hill. There's a small like hill with a little ridge right there. And she said it crawled up the hill. She goes, and when that wolf-like creature looked at that, it got down on all fours. And then it stood there looking at me and then looking at the other creature. And she said this creature looked very animalistic. The reptile did. And its tongue was kind of flicking, you know. And she said it didn't look like something that would be like have a human level intelligence.
Yeah.
The werewolf, as she called it, she said it did. She goes, and it just kind of like debated. It kind of took a step or two toward the other creature. And its hair came up on its back and it kind of growled. And that creature just kind of stopped and was observing it and then kept walking toward me. She said it kind of swayed side to side. And she goes, and I watched it. And as this was happening, she said that she started to kind of go off to the left of this creature to get away from it because it was distracted. And she's like, and then I looked back as I was walking and then I started to run. She's like, and I don't know what happened. She goes, but I heard them kind of locking horns, you know, like engaging. And she got up to the top of the hill. She's like, and I was crying. I looked down and I just see these two things rolling off into the creek. They were fighting. And she said that, you know, somebody just said what I was going to say. Lauren said they were fighting over dinner. Exactly, Lawrence. That's exactly what they were doing. And she ran up the hill and she was crying. And she goes, this is the day that I think I really started to kind of warm up to Dwight. He was the first one that came out. She's like, and he put his sweaty, dirty arms around me and was like, are you okay? Are you okay? And he grabbed his rifle and was headed down there on the horse. And she grabbed him and she goes, don't go down there. Please don't go down there. She started begging him. And so a couple of the cowboys went down there to go to the creek and they didn't see anything, but they saw weird footprints. You know, they had footprints. They said that there were these big, giant paw prints. But the weird thing was they looked like they were half human, half wolf. Like you could see
Maybe in the middle of shifting?
No, I don't think that. This thing was already shifted from what she said. The description was that it was about 6.5 feet tall. It was kind of thin, but it was all covered in gray hair, but it had the upper body of a man. Big legs, you know, like you hear about the backward bent legs, standing on its, you know, the paws. The back part looks like a human foot. So when it goes down, it goes like that, you know. That's what they saw. And then they saw these reptilian clawed feet looking thing, which kind of verified her story. Now, she did say, she's like, that was it for her. She never saw this werewolf-looking creature again. She never saw this reptilian-looking creature again, but she did see a Bigfoot, not only once, but twice. But she said, believe it or not, she's like, this was me as a kid. You know, I was a little kid. But she said, I was coming home one night. She goes, and it was she'll never forget. She's like, it was 1977. I'll never forget. We're coming back from the movies. And she said, we were coming back from the movies in Taylor. They'd gone to the movies, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in Taylor at the Howard Theater.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, we were driving back. It was the closest theater at that time, you know. And so she said, we were driving back, and she goes, and we were on 79, right? And she says, and we were getting right past Rockdale, and she's just like, we were crossing over where the highway to turn to Cameron. She's like, we were almost to Milano. That's where, and then that area back up in there, and then they turn off onto where they go. And she's like, and we see this, what I can only describe as a conical headed. She's like, it was a Bigfoot. I mean, there's no way to describe it. It was crouched down, and it was eating something that looked like a dead cow on the side of the road. But it was like when you turn off to go on the country road right there.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, wow, what is that? And so her and her date at the time, which was Dwight, saw it. And so he told her, he goes, I've seen those many times. He's seen them like 20 times. He said, probably seen them. But he only had one real close encounter with them where he was absolutely terrified. And so there were multiple stories from these different people who had seen these creatures. Like, I mean, that's the only way you could describe them. He goes, and then, you know, to make things worse, the old Puller place, which had changed hands a couple times, the house there, he said, I was there one time and there were deer in that area. So he said, I went out there to go deer hunting, and they used the old Puller shack. It was like a shack where they kept, a shed, I'm sorry, where they kept like, they would can, you know, the vegetables with the jars and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, and you go in there, man, and there's still some of these old jars. They're probably in there since the 1880s.
Yeah. They're probably still good.
He's
too.
like, they had beets and garlic and all kinds of stuff.
I like beets. Let's go get them.
And so he goes in there and he says, I'm sitting in there. He's like, and I'm deer hunting. He goes, and I'll never forget. He goes, this was 1962. He's like, and I'm out there and I got my rifle and I'm sitting there waiting, you know, see if I could see anything. He goes, wasn't nothing going on, you know, and he was kind of getting disheartened, you know. And he goes, he was with Rose at the time they were together, not at whatever. And he said, you know, it's about supper time and Rose probably having food ready, you know. So he told his brother, he said, you know, let's go. You know, his brother Jimmy's no longer around. He passed away. He said, me and Jimmy were sitting there in the deer stand. And he's like, and we were looking and we saw this creature that walked into our, like, you know, view, whatever. And it was a Bigfoot. It looked like a Bigfoot, whatever. And, you know, long story short, he said, dude, this thing, it was like something was wrong with it. Like it was sick, you know? And he said that it started to like pull like its hair off of its body. And like they were watching this, and he goes, his brother lifted up his rifle like he was going to shoot it. And his cousin did like that. Like, no, don't, you don't know what's going to happen with that. They might, you know, come at us or something. And he said that this thing was like taking the fur off. And then when he did, he said there was just black stuff. He's like, if you take black putty or tar and pull it apart, you know, or like taffy. And he said that it was coming off of its body and it was coughing. And then it just like wandered off back into the woods. And they were like, what the hell was that? Now that makes sense because later on, you know, Stella had told us the story about, and we told it on Thursday's show, about the guy that had the, which would have been, I think, his cousin, that saw it, you know, vomiting up this black sludge, goo, whatever it was. Y'all remember that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is something that he saw. But he said, you know, that little shed is where they would post up. He goes, but nobody would ever go into the cabin. It was a dog-run cabin that the Pullers had, the African-American family. And I said, why is that? He goes, because it was haunted. And I said, really? That's interesting. He said, yeah. He goes, one night we stayed out there in the cabin because we didn't want to walk. It was cold as a witch's tit. That's an old Texas country southern saying, cold as witch's tit. And he was out there and he said it was cold. He goes, and we didn't want to walk back. He goes, I'm talking, it was probably in the teens that night. And we were like, you know, and he's like, and we had a group of stags that had run through there and we missed them. So we thought we're going to wait. And so we ended up getting too cold. He goes, and that winter, it got brutally cold. He goes, it was like 14 degrees or something like that. And he goes, and when that northern blew in, it was in the 20s already. It temperature dropped down in the teens. He goes, hell, it could have been single digits for all I know. I was freezing. He goes, and I had, we had put some blankets and we had stocked that cabin. He goes, my daddy had stocked it up. So they went into the cabin, to get out of the cold. And he said, I'll never forget. He goes, I laid down in one of the bunks there, one of the beds. He's like, and about midnight, he's like, I remember it was an old alarm clock, one of them old, rattling alarm clocks, whatever.
Yeah.
He said, he goes, that alarm clock went off and I had set it, and he goes, but the time was wrong. He goes, and I was so half asleep. He goes, and my flashlight was barely working. And he said, man, the thing woke me up. But the weird thing was he looked over and two guys he was with, his cousins, they didn't even wake up. They just woke him up. And he's like, how can this rattling alarm clock not wake these guys up? He says, I wake up and I look and I see this man standing there and he's like observing me. He goes, and he looks like he's like, it sounds funny. He goes, but it's almost like how you see the descriptions of like an old pioneer, like an old,
Yeah.
He said he looked like he was from the 1820s or something. Like he had an old musket, like the kind that was pre-Civil War, And he said that cabin was well built and that it was built in the 1830s, right? Now we know from going out to Lawrence Cemetery, that thing was built, 1836 or something like that?
Yeah.
Wasn't it? Wasn't that what they
I
said?
think so.
Yeah. And it was still there.
Yeah.
It's still in good shape. And he said this old dog run cabin, he said, was built in the 1830s. It was there and the Pullers had taken it and lived in it. And he said, he was laying there and he goes, and I see this guy and it's the people that used to live there. They were black people. He said, but this was a white guy, like, and this guy was looking at him and he was like, he like was holding like a musket. He thought, he put his hands up. He thinks this guy, he's going to shoot me. Like, why is this guy standing here looking at me like this? He said, and the guy was looking at him like, what are you doing? Like he was a trespasser. You know what I mean? And he said, I'm looking at this guy and I'm thinking, this dude is about to shoot me, with that gun. And so he told him, he said, hey, look, man. He goes, put the rifle down. He goes, and the guy looked around and he looked over at the two guys that were sleeping on the other side of the room. And he said he kind of walked over there to them and looked at them. And he said he looked, he had one of these hats, he said, I could tell it was weird. It was like the kind you see that the French trappers would wear. They kind of hung down like a sock over his head. Mm-hmm. And there were some French people that was about as far west as they had come from Louisiana, was that area right there. And there are a couple French named families there. And so I think one of them, when I was talking to him, their last name was like Cress or something like that. Like it was, or Crease or something like that. And it was spelled like Cresse or whatever, but he said that, they lived in that area. And it was like CRESSE or something like that. I don't know. It was something. He tried to spell it, but he wasn't for sure. And he said, is that French? I said, I don't know. It might be, So that's a good question. Madeline says, did the guy look more like so while this guy was observing his friends, he goes, I took the time to reach under my bunk and pull out my pistol. And I'm thinking, I'm going to have to shoot this dude, man. Because I don't know who this crazy guy is, if he's drunk or what is this guy's on a bender? I don't know what's going on with this dude. Back in those days, like nowadays, we have these crazy homeless people.
Yeah.
Right. Back then they had prowlers.
Mm-hmm.
They're always, the old timers always like, watch out for them prowlers. They prowl around. They come up to your farm and they would tell you, hey, I'll work for food, and you never knew what kind of weird people they were, and it's up to you. You at your own risk, you put them up in the barn or whatever. And every now and then they were just thieves. They'd steal some chickens and bail, whatever. But, at worst they could rob you and kill you, And so he said, he goes, I don't know who this guy was. He's some kind of prowler, and he's holding a musket. He goes, he looks solid. He's like, and when I took my pistol out, I slowly pulled it out, and he was like, you made that noise. Mm-hmm. This guy was aware of, that noise. because he turned and he looked, and he said he kept on holding on to his rifle. He goes, and I pointed it at him, and he goes, and I got up out of bed, and he goes, I had to have looked weird. I was wearing my long johns, and then I had a jacket, big old fur jacket on, And I told him, I said, you better get out of here, get the hell out of my cabin. I'm about to shoot you, And he said that the guy just turned and looked at him and walked out the door, which for some reason was open. And he goes, I did not open it, and I don't remember him opening it. I don't know how it got open. He's like, and I walked out behind him, and he was gone. He's like, I looked both ways, and I was like, what in the hell? Now, he said his brother had a similar experience in there. He was in there, and they used it like kind of a hunting lodge, And he said he was in there, and he was making breakfast like bacon and eggs, And he goes, and they were turkey hunting. And he said that, that hole was still there, not far from there. It's about 200 or 300 yards, but it was caved in at that time. It had been closed off, whatever. But he said that sometimes they would hear noises, and it sounded like it was coming from underground. And they would hear these shrieks and howls and stuff. It sounded horrible. Like you were like, what is that? And they would think that it was coming from underground. And so he said that his brother was cooking up some breakfast. And he goes, and we had gone out turkey hunting, and we were going to come back. And his brother was always sleeping in because he liked to drink. And his brother was useful in the way that he could cook. Kind of like my brother. Except without the drinking. He don't drink no more. He's just useless. So he's probably going to say something now. Where's Scorpion? I don't see him in it. Did he show up? Or Tony? Where's Tony? Tony doesn't want to participate no more? Tony mad? Are you mad, Tony? No, I don't know. Might want to let him know we're on. I don't even know if you.
I will.
Huh?
Yes, I'll-
Okay. Hold on one
I'll
second.
text them.
So anyways, what ended up happening, his brother was cooking. He said something shoved him over the stove. And when he came back, his arm was like burnt real bad. And he had to go back to the main house.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had to take him to the hospital because he had burnt the hell out of himself. And he said, dude, it's crazy. He goes, I'm standing there by the stove and something shoved me. He goes, and then later that night, we were back at the main house. We're at the house and we're talking. He's like, and my grandpa came out and we were talking about being in the old Polar place. And he said, he goes, man, I wouldn't stay the night in that place for nothing. He goes, that place has got some spooky, weird stuff going on out there. So his grandfather told him a story. One night he was out there at the Polar place after they had moved out, and he was really good friends with Douglas, one of the main guys that was his, his lineage or whatever. And he said, dude, he goes, they had moved out. He said, Douglas told me that there was a haint that would roam around that land right there that's what the black people would call spirits or demons, whatever. He said, Douglas told him, he says, always never referred to him as Douglas. He always called him Puller, and he always called him by his last name. And he said, he goes, and old man Puller told me, he says, we got a haint around here. He looks like an old man walking around with a rifle. He's like, but there's something else that's going on there too, because he goes, that guy just comes and goes and disappears, but there's this thing out there that looks like an old crone, like a witch. And he said that what's crazy is like this thing will be up in a tree, like this woman or whatever, but it looks like an old lady sitting up in a tree. But then if you go and you stare at her, you point a gun at it, it turns into like this bird-like creature and flies away. Lechusa.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly what that is. And so what they were able to figure out, at least this is what Stella believes, she said that after her granddad had this, or her brother, had this encounter with this Bigfoot type creature out there, they started asking questions. And so one day they were sitting around there all comparing notes, all these different encounters and things that had happened out there. And this is a lot on one people's property. And so, are y'all cold, man? It is. I'm like, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm cold.
I'm all right, but I'll fix AC.
It's up to you guys. If it's AC's on, turn it off. I'm like, my.
Sorry.
What?
sorry you're cold and weak. Just kidding.
I'm sorry, I'm so weak, folks. My weakness has made us poor.
Toughen up.
You know what could help get my strength back? Donations. That always helps. Like you're laying there all sick. What could we do to help? Do you have any money?
Got any donations?
Hold on. I have to drink it.
I know. Wolf should win the giveaway for a nice warm hoodie.
Telling you, man.
Yeah,
Well, I
we
can't
got-
even use the hoodie, so we got to give them all away.
Do you want mine?
They don't fit in yours.
This is yours. I stole yours.
Those don't fit me. Those
Oh.
are too small.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. For just 9,900. Yeah, exactly. You can help Wolf not feel so cold.
Joanne, I need some cranberries.
We got plenty of them in this right here. There's some
Okay, actually, give me
cranberries.
some. I will eat them.
So what ended up happening? Okay, let me get back to the story. This person that saw this, the last Bigfoot encounter that happened near that place, claims that when he was witnessing this creature walk across the front, right in front of that cabin, he heard like what he thought was a witch, like cackling in the background. He goes, I hear this like this weird noise. I don't know if that's how it sounded. I'm assuming that that's what a witch sounds like. I don't know. But it started canned food drive. There we go. Thank you for that donation, Josh. 2 pops. Joe, 2 pops. At least Joe loves me. And so he said that they were comparing notes, and they were like, dude, there was this witch noise that people would hear. And, you know, the old guy that ran that area of the farm back in the old days, before they had moved on to Elgin, he said that they were very convinced that it was haunted. He said, there's a haint out here. So her grandpa, Stella's grandpa, went there one night, and he stayed the night there. And he said that he was coming back. He was on a long trip from the main house to the Puller house. You're talking about, you know, several hundred yards. And if it's really cold, you know, there wasn't the trail there would get, there was a creek that ran through it, and the trail, it could get real treacherous. So then, you know, sometimes they would just stop, and it was at night, you know, they'd just stop and stay up there at the Puller place instead of coming down to their, you know, and eventually they bought up all that land. They owned it all. They took the other piece that the people that had moved in below them, and they moved away. I hope I'm making sense. I'm just trying to tell as best I can. And so they ended up, he was coming back one night, and he had gone to auction, you know, and he had taken, you know, several head of cattle, and they had gone to the auction, and I think he said it was in Georgetown or something, and he was coming back, and so they stopped right there, him and a buddy, you know, and along the way there were several of them together, but each one was stopping at their own property and saying, okay, goodbye, to where it was just him and another guy, and that guy worked for him. And so they had gone to auction, and they were coming back, and there was a little bit of a hike, especially when you got to go in a wagon, in a buckboard wagon, or whatever it was. And so they stopped, and they stayed in the Puller place. And that place, like I said, it's got that big hole right there where they were witnessing all kinds of shenanigans. And he said that they heard a knock on the door. There was like 3 loud bangs, and 3. There you go. Right. And I don't think Stella realized the significance of the 3, because when I stopped her, I said, hey, that 3 really does mean something. You know, 3 bangs, oftentimes it connotates something, you know, and I explained to her what the 3 significance was. And of course, if you're a veteran of the show, you already know we've talked about all this. And she was kind of taken aback by that, because she said that had happened at her house a couple times. And we'll get into what happened to her in a minute here. But 3 bangs, and the door flies open, And it had been raining pretty heavily over the last, like 2 weeks, whatever. And it was in October. And she said, my grandpa told me, she called him Grandpappy. She's like, Grandpappy had told me that this green ball of light was like hovering right there in the middle of the doorway. And that this guy that was with him, I don't remember his name, she don't either, but she said he had a friend that was sleeping on the other side of the cabin. And it was just hovering there. And he was like, and then they heard this sort of loud scream, sort of a shriek, and it sounded like a woman screaming in pain. And then it took off. Like it just went out the doorway and then up into the sky and was gone. And so that was his story. She don't remember him having any other encounters, but that should be enough. But if you think about it though, and this is what's a dot connector for me, and all this craziness that was going on out there. Is anybody familiar with the Bell Witch? Okay. When that story began, all right, it started with this hairy beast-like creature. Some people think it was like a Dogman. Some people say it might have been a Bigfoot. We don't really know. We just know that it was a hairy beast out in the field. And then after that, they had all this weird stuff with this sort of invisible witch that went on. Well, this is very similar to that. You had all these weird creatures that were doing whatever they were doing, and then you had this witch or the spirit of a witch. So this is what I told her. And I don't know if I'm correct in this. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. I could be just trying to connect dots that aren't there. I don't know. But I told Stella this, and I said, let me tell you something. I said, I told her about the whole story, from the Bell Witch and all these other different places, Skinwalker Ranch, the Hernandez Ranch, things like that. And I said, let me tell you something. I said, if you go back in time, pre-Civil War, pre-18, I think her father got in 1872. Her grandfather took the land in 1872. At least that's what the timeline, she knew it. And then you go back to the 1830s when they first, when that guy, whoever built that cabin, it was probably from the 1830s. That's what they thought. And that place was already about 40 years old when the Pullers took it over. Now, if you figured 40 years, I mean, back then, like I said, they built things to last. I'm going to go out to Lawrence Cemetery and we're going to take a picture. We've been out there and we've done a little investigating. Y'all know that. We got some flashlights, so we finally got some good ones.
Mm-hmm.
We're finally able to, we're getting around the corner of this house thing and we're going to get some stuff done here. Okay. Bear with us. But what ended up happening, this cabin, it's from the 1830s and it's still there. It's still solid as a rock. So 40 years back then, and wood was better back then. It was older. I'm being honest. And so I'm not going to get into the whatever, but that's nothing. You built that cabin, that thing was built to last 200 years. That thing is going to outlive 3-4 generations of people easily. So when they took it 40 years down the road, I mean, that's nothing, for them. So then fast forward another 20, 30 years, whatever. And then you fast forward another 30, 40 years, it's still there. It's still solid. So I asked her, I said, is that cabin still there? And she's like, unfortunately, it burned up. But she said, yeah, the chimney is still there. And a bunch of the wood is still there. Like it's still there. Like it's kind of like, it's just dilapidated part of it, and the other part burned up, but part of it, yeah, it's still there, the remnants of it. She's like, those things were built to last. And they still to this day don't know who set the fire, how the fire started, what set it, how it happened. They don't know. They don't know what caused it. They don't know anything about that. So that's another weird thing in this whole situation. She's like, it just burned up, and it burned up back in the 90s. I think she said 1993 the cabin burned down, but it's pieces of it are still there. But she said it was definitely haunted. And she goes, so when I was a kid, she goes, this is what Stella said. She was the main person I talked to. She said, I decided to go up there and I was going to be brave. And me and a couple of my girlfriends, we were young teenagers, and we're like, hey, let's go up there and let's sleep in that cabin for the night. She said, we heard this loud cackling noise. It sounded like a witch. She's like, and then she goes, my friends had jumped up and I covered myself. Get this is freaky. She goes, I covered myself, my head. She's like, and then I pull the covers down, I look, and I'm the only one in the cabin. My friends had ran up out of there. And her friend, she goes, they had driven off and left me.
Oh, man.
And she's like, I'm sitting there. She goes, I'm in my late teens, and I'm like, what
Poor kid.
the hell are y'all doing? Like, you just left me here. So, she was pissed, it's like she was pissed off, I don't blame her. And she's like, so they had driven off and left me. And she's like, and I was so scared I didn't even hear them drive away. She goes, so I sat there in that cabin. She goes, luckily daylight came in just a couple of hours. She goes, I don't remember what time it was because I asked her, maybe it was 3:00, the witching hour. Then she said that, in the morning, her friends came back.
How nice.
And her friend was by herself. The other girl was hysterical, wouldn't stop crying, was trying to grab the steering wheel from the other girl. Mm-hmm. And then they were like, hey, we left Stella. So they started driving around in circles around the property to try to get back, and they could not find the cabin. She goes, then daylight comes, and her friend realizes that she's only about 20, 30, feet from the cabin. And she, to this day, didn't know how she didn't see it or know that it was there. So very weird thing.
Yeah.
She's like, and I didn't hear the vehicle going around. All I heard was like what sounded like by the fireplace whispering. She's like, and then she thinks she knows how the cabin burned down. She don't think a person did it. She thinks that maybe one of the hunters that they would let come out there, whatever, had started a fire in the fireplace, and the fire would do this weird thing where it would come up real hard, And she said that it was bizarre. She's like, I have a fireplace and it doesn't do that. And she said that it would like come, shooting up. And she thinks that maybe one of these hunters was out there, and they let the fire be unattended, and it leapt out of there and caught one of the rugs on fire. And she thinks that that's what happened. Well, at that time she was living in Florida for several years because she said stupidly, she's like, I got married to a stupid man, she said, and she was a widow, and she got married to a guy, and it happened while she was gone. And when she came back, nobody really could give her an explanation. But she thinks that's what happened. So Nasir Hassan, what is he saying here about the Dogman Triangle? I watched the Dogman Triangle today, and brother, I felt it was incomplete without you in it. It had all our other fellow Texans in it. Yeah. I figured you didn't participate due to the bull crap. No, not really, dude. I mean, like, people do stuff all the time, and, I don't get invited. And so what? You
weren't invited?
I wasn't invited. They had talked to me about interviewing me. Heather Moser had interviewed. It said that they were going to interview me, and then I guess they had so many other places to hit that it just didn't. I didn't get. They didn't get around interviewing me. So I don't guess it's not like I didn't get invited, but I got passed over, I guess, or whatever.
Interesting.
But then again, I wasn't really trying either. I didn't really try too hard. I will say this: when it comes to this field, I don't really go out of my way to include myself in stuff. And Anthony and Nelly can attest to that. No disrespect to anybody other than the turds that attack us or whatever, but I really don't care. I mean, they're lost, not mine. I don't give a shit. People don't want to interview me. I got more information than most people out there. But I don't know. Maybe people feel like, you would steal their thunder.
Thunder thief.
But they don't. It doesn't stop them to call me when they want witnesses for their shows. I can say that. I'm going to say that. I'm just going to say these network people have called me multiple times and said, "Hey," or people who are writing books or making these whatever. They're like, "Hey, can you give us some witnesses?" And I've been nice, and I've given them witnesses to put on their shows. You know, half of the people out there that they talk to are people I talk to, and there are people that I hustled them up and got it done.
We got the paratroopers.
We got the paratroopers.
We're good
Yeah,
to
exactly.
go.
Don't whisper, just say
Sorry. No, what? That's how I do it. Sorry if it affects you, but
it. Don't affect me. People are
not
like,
you. I was talking to the whoever.
why is she whispering?
Because I don't want to, like, I'm talking and I don't want to, like, if you're going to say something, I want everybody to hear both.
They want to hear you speak.
I mean, like, if you whisper, they can still hear you because you're like right there on the mic, so you might as well just say it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just a force of habit because then if
Yeah.
someone says something, then
And then when I say something, they're going to think I'm being arrogant or whatever.
wah, wah, wah for them.
Come to PRT if you want the real, whatever. I mean, if you want to be bored and see people walking around going, acting really concerned, go to the other guys. If you want to know the real story, come to us. Because all I ever see on those shows is them walking around going and acting all concerned, and then that's it. And they interview somebody that goes, "I done seen it going into," get out of my TV. Slap your face. I can only take so much of that Delbertism bullshit, and I just can't. I mean, let's be honest, And some of those documentaries, the people that they put on there, and you're like, that guy. You go and get a hoaxing, lying fraud and put him on. Like, once you do that, I'm done. I'm not going to watch that. Like on the one Dogman document, whatever, they had Linda Godfrey, and then they put the Dogman Whisperer on there. And I'm like,
Are you serious? I didn't even see that.
dude, I was like, this guy's the biggest full of crap person, and you're going to put him on there, and it's like, I know this guy. I know all of his fraudulent whatever, and you're just like, that person? Come on, man.
The skit you did. Boing.
There's so much of it out there too. They just don't. I don't want to get me started on. I don't want to be negative. Let's not be negative.
Let's bring up the vibration and the positivity frequency.
Namaste. Namaste. That being said, yes, the Dogman Triangle, whatever, I like Aaron Deese, and I got no problems with him or Seth or Heather or any of them. They said they were pressed for time. They didn't get it, whatever. I was busy anyway. I don't have time to reconnoiter my schedule to make it fit and I could be on a lot of shows and do a lot of things, but I don't have time. Yes, I will be honest. A big part of my life is made trying to make money. That doesn't make me some money hungry guy. That means that I run businesses and I'm trying to get things done. So that takes precedence over this. This show doesn't pay the bills. It doesn't. Okay. I got to pay the bills, and I have a lot of bills and I have a lot of people I got to take care of. And this doesn't do it. It's a fact. If it did pay the bills, being honest, the community would be richer for it because I could show you a lot, but I don't have the time. I got things to do. So, and I can only do so much with my brain because I'll forget other people's names. I wake up and I'm like, Nellie, and she's like, yes.
No, it's like, no.
Because I got to remember all this other stuff, and you can only do so much,
That would be funny. I would mess with you all the time. I'd be like, no, who are you?
Yeah, exactly, Carrie.
Just call each other woman and man.
Turns to now I'm going to say. Yeah, exactly. What I, was trying to get to, though, is there was so much activity going on. I couldn't even, I can't cram it into the time frame that we have here. But we could always do like the next show. We could finish talking about all this because
Yeah.
because we have to do a show. We're going to drop a show for. Are we going to drop it Tuesday? Because Tuesdays close.
Well, I think we should do it
I mean,
on Wednesday.
I wouldn't shoot for Tuesday. Yeah, probably Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday
Okay.
would be much
Okay,
easier.
So we'll try to make it Wednesday. We'll do it Wednesday. We'll come out with an hour long show on Wednesday.
86.
I'm reading what rethinking. What is rethinking talking about? All this.
To read 86.
Anyways, I didn't want to sound like, oh, going and making money is more important to me than doing the show. What I'm talking about is like I have responsibilities and I have businesses and I have a lot of people that financially depend on me. So I have things I have to do. And yes, Peace Frog, I did. I fired myself.
86, you see? It's because you were fired from your own job.
Yeah. It's really funny when the one guy says, oh, rumor has it that so-and-so was fired. What are you talking about? Like, what rumor? What are you, Adele? Rumor has it. Rumor has Shut the... Dude, if I was going to I'd fire my partner. How about that? When you're 70% of the business, you fire them. They don't fire you. Okay? And you will never have a job with me. So don't even keep calling him. Because
That's bizarre.
Not going to give you a job. How about that? You moron. Stupid.
Do a reenactment of the phone call.
I did it last time. You don't remember?
I was probably reading the comments.
You don't remember the reenactment on Thursday where I talked about how I fired myself?
Oh, that one. No, I'm talking
I
about.
sat myself down.
I was talking about what roofie guy calling.
Oh, to try to get a job?
Yes.
He must have really believed that if I just say it on Facebook, hey, it's true. What reality do you live in where you just speak something into? Are you a sorcerer? You just speak it into existence? JT got fired. Like, shut the hole under your nose. Shut the hole under your nose. No, I did not. That is impossible. Okay, that cannot happen.
Lunar Eclipse asks, did you give yourself severance pay?
Damn right I did. And a new truck, apparently. No. Yeah, I was just about to say Amy Krill beat me to it. Delusional, these people. Okay, and to just say those silly, bizarre things, and then and then the wizard, the little fairy wizard prince over there in the UK, talking about a certain someone was fired. Like, here's the you're supposedly a magic user that's cursing me, and you can't figure out whether or not I got fired or not. What in the hell and then my pig is going to starve? What? Yeah, that's what he said. Something about, I don't know. Somebody sent the screenshot. Remember, it was some kind of, these people, they got the retardation. All right. Another swing and a miss by the Yankees. Oh, you struck out. Good try, though. I mean, apparently he's a F around and find out. He's going to do some magic. It's not working. I'm just telling you.
Going to do some butt magic on you, George Turner. Some booty magic on your booty hole.
You will feel a tingling sensation down below. I'm putting magic on your booty hole. That's, these people, they're smoking the crack of the retardation. We're losing the people
Let me
here.
put some magic on your member, George Turner. Yes. Massage.
Yes.
Let me just massage the magic into your member. Yes.
Oh, God. Anyways, folks, hey, so sorry about that. Like we start joking around, laughing, a bunch of people leave. They're like, I don't like this. I don't like it at all. They're having too much fun. I want to hear stories. Stories. And that's it. There's too much fun going on here. I don't like it. Want to have fun, I'd go to Six Flags. Yeah, Carrie hit the nail on the head there. Carrie Eaton, a friend of mine for a long time now.
Joanne.
Exactly. People should be careful flinging curses because they could backfire. And hit you in the butt. Well, in his case, he'd probably want that, but we're not.
I'm waiting.
Like, I wish it would hurry up and come back. Why is it not coming back? Anyways, I'm not fired.
Vibrating magic wand.
It's just the lunacy with these people, you know. But anyway, enough of that. This cabin that they burned down, though, I really think that it was kind of the epicenter of this. And this is what I think. And this is what I told Stella. I said, I'm going to tell you something. I think that this thing was built back in the 1830s. I think that there was someone, the man that maybe lived there before. There's a story behind it. And I think that they just kind of pieced it together and kind of made it up. But thank you, Curtis, for that donation. We appreciate that. They think that this guy made the cabin and there was a woman that lived on that land and she got cross with him. And she tried to put a curse on him. And the man that lived there, he did something to her. Like, I think there's a story about it. Like, supposedly she was this witch. She could shapeshift. He shot her as a bird. And then the next day she was a woman. Mm-hmm. And this is the story that was told to Stella when she was a child by people that lived, you know, on other farms. They said, yeah, that land over there, that part of that land, not the whole thing, but part of it was cursed. And now you have Dwight's, you know, girlfriend, whatever, that became his wife. She was a kid. And she's about, you know, she's older too. A little bit younger than Stella, but she saw this werewolf-looking creature. Now, we'll get into that. Okay? At least 3 different times that creature has been seen. And I'm going to say this. My personal opinion is this. It had something to do with the guy, the French trapper. I think that's what he was. I think he had a wife. The descriptions of her look like she's Spanish looking. I don't mean Spanish as in Hispanic, Mexican, whatever. But she looks like maybe a light-skinned Hispanic woman. Maybe she was Mexican. I don't know. People have seen a woman sitting up in a tree. Not just flying away, but just sitting up in a tree. And then they look and she's gone. And what the hell is that?
How fast can she change?
I don't know. I mean, well, my cousin Trey saw Lechusa. And then, of course, your uncle saw one, Anthony. A lot of people have seen them. You know, my mom's friend from Elgin claimed to have seen one. Your grandmother was, you know, talked about. I mean, there's, you know, Scorpion, where he grew up. There was a story that a bird was hung on a fence where his mom and dad live now. Mm-hmm. They took that, his parents took that chain link fence down because a bunch of stuff had happened to that chain link fence. His brother had tripped and hurt himself. And so they eventually
touched it.
Yeah. A bunch of stuff had happened. So there was a story over there in Metropolis where he was from that a woman had been, a bird was hung on that fence. And the next day it was a woman. And then there is an actual record of a woman having been killed on that corner. And there's no cause of death. That happened back in the 1950s, and nobody really knows. So that's where he's from, where Scorpion lived, on the east side of Metropolis. So there are these encounters, these cases of this, right? So what if this guy was a French? This is my putting it together. He was a French trapper. He might have gotten a Hispanic or Spanish wife or someone, maybe, I don't know. Maybe they ran afoul of one another, or maybe she did something to him, he did something to her, or maybe they were both killed, because that is right there on the edge of Kiowa country. Not as close to the Comanche. The Comanches would move out that way, but they really like to be more, it seemed like they were more toward the west. But the Kiowa would have been a prime suspect along with the Apaches. And we'll go out to Apache Pass one day. We'll do a little investigating out there
Oh, that'd be
because
fun.
that place is extremely haunted and it has a lot of weird stuff, including werewolves and ghosts, you name it, Bigfoot, a bunch of stuff out of Apache Pass on this side of Thorndale. Now that is north of Thorndale. If you go to south of Thorndale, that's where you get those weird Bigfoot with the ashen faces. The story, because I've never heard of them being north of there. Yeah, see, Scorpion just said that. See, there you go. Thanks for piping up on that one, Scorp. Yeah, that was from where he lived. So this is just one example. So this woman, it's like a spirit. She's a spirit now, for sure. This is not a flesh and blood thing because she'll appear and then just vanish. And there's a bunch of weird stuff that's attached to this. So I think we should probably do the hour long for next week, kind of conclusion with the stories that we got. 'Cause there's so many. I can't even. I mean, I feel like I've only scratched the surface of the different stories. Did you want to make this point about the programmable?
You can just read it.
Well, no, you do it. It's yours.
No,
It's your
okay.
information. You
But
do it.
I can't pull it up. I don't remember what I said exactly.
Well, it's right here.
Um,
Before you want to read before we get into that, I'll
Okay.
finish what I'm saying.
okay.
So, and then you can give your example of that. One of the things that was told to me was that not only is this area cursed, but in particular that area near that hole. Now you have these holes all over the world. We've talked about this on the show. Some of them, are very notable, like Mel's Hole, Baalbek. That there's always a bunch of weirdness around these big holes. And so you're sitting there going like, what is it with these holes that create this whatever, And I if you would ask me what I think that this guy there was some relation between him and this witch. Something went on. And then that created a haunting. And then that hole would have been something that she was attracted to because she could probably come, do magic brujeria and she could summon things. I mean, these inner earth beings seem to be very attracted to negative things. And we need to call that guy that claims to have shot the chupacabra out in Rockdale.
Oh yeah.
Because there's an area outside of Rockdale where there was a guy that was climbing a power line. His name is Terry. And I actually tracked this guy down. And that was a story that was done on Reddit a long time ago. And another particular podcaster, I think he was making it up. I think he changed that story. It happened here in Texas, and he made it to where it happened over there or somewhere else in Mississippi or whatever. And this guy claims to have had this werewolf-looking creature come up to his truck while he was working on a power line. And this happened outside of Rockdale, in between Rockdale and Lexington, on that highway. And they found back in the 80s, there were dead two people were found, bodies were found on that highway. And they were unexplained deaths. But and so that would make sense because these people were found, and of course they were chewed up, and they said it was coyotes. And I remember this was 1986, and one of them was found, I think, in 1984. And because I remember I was a kid, we were living out there. Not out there, but we lived. And so, I remember like reading about it. And so, yeah, Carrie, you're right about that. Carrie's making some good points tonight. The chuba is disappointing. Started out as a lizard kangaroo, which is what it is. Now it's a dog thing. That dog one, though, that's not really a chupacabra. The chupacabra is like a catch-all name now. And that dog-like thing is what we call a blue dog, and they're not rare. I mean, they're not that rare. People see, me and Nellie saw two of them.
Three.
Well, I thought it was
three.
two.
It was the two,
three of them?
and then there was a smaller one. Remember, it was.
Well, you saw that one.
Yeah.
I'm being honest because I only saw two.
Yeah, you saw the two bigger ones.
Yeah. I didn't see the little one. You saw all three.
Mhm.
But you had a better vantage than I did.
Yeah.
But I saw a big one that I think was a mother because it had teats. And it was right there at my job site when I was working at Bella Springs. There's a 2008. And then there was a little one that like ran out from underneath someone's truck and ran across the job site, and the workers were all like, "Whoa," you know. But Nick Redfern did a lot of work on the chupacabra phenomenon, especially in Puerto. He traveled to Puerto Rico, and of course, you know, I gave him some encounters with some different people who had given me stories. One was the Cocopelli, you know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But and then one was from another person who had given me stories, but crazy roofer person got to that person, and they don't talk to me no more because you know the anal knockies, you know. So whatever.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, nobody cares. When you get down to brass tacks, you know, I think what was going on, I think that this place was haunted, cursed way back before her grandfather took the land over in 1872. At least that's the year that she thinks it was. And the paperwork was redrawn and redone in 1932. So 40, what would it be? 30, was it 60 years later when the paperwork, because the deed was missing. And everybody knew it was their land, but they had to redo the paperwork for it. And guess where they found the remnants of the paperwork? What was partially burned, the deed, where they found it. Where do you think it was found? It was found in the storage shed, which was basically a root cellar with a little shed on the top. That's where the paper was found. And nobody knows why the deed ended up there.
No one knows how it got there.
The pullers were long gone. And so it's a weird thing. And this Crease guy, who knows who he was? He was probably the first one to settle there. But think about it. If there's this gigantic hole right there, why would you build right there? The land was wide open and nobody owned it other than the natives. And the Kiowa and the Comanche were very nomadic, along with most of the Apache tribes. They didn't really claim land. They claimed territory, as in like you're in where we ride our horses.
Mm-hmm.
But there was nobody saying, hey, I own this land, so you could just build wherever. And people would build anywhere near the rivers. The San Gabriel River was a very common place to build. And there are definitely creeks shooting off from there where a lot of people build, like my family came from there. And if you look at, you know, like the Brazos, the Colorado, all these different rivers, you know, that's where people built. The Trinity. And then everything else was like these offshoots of it, you know. And so Brushy Creek, which is a big, Eric Palazzo has really opened my eyes to how big it was. I thought Brushy Creek, those were just all different waterways that were just named that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought that's what it was.
No.
And so it turns out that Brushy Creek is one long.
Yeah, it just
creek.
goes all over the place.
Yeah, and it all stems from the lower Colorado River.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so, and it's also part of a recharge zone, which is, it doesn't matter. But the point is that this is where you're going to find these. So there was water there. So this could have been, the hole that was there could have been part of an ancient well. And when I say ancient well, I'm not talking about the 1830s. I'm not talking about when the natives were, you know, that they dug it out. I'm talking about past, like, you know, going beyond like where we're at now. Like, you know, in the last Yuga, you know, it could be the Giants could have dug it out because it looks like, you know, it was said to Dwight, you know, that it looked like giants had dug it out. I mean, it's weird, right? Yeah, pre-Diluvian even. But even the flood even wasn't that long ago when you're looking at the big scheme of things. And this set of what is what I'm looking for? Not these are yugas, you know, like the Secha Yuga, Techa Yuga, Dorpa Yuga, Kali Yuga.
Set of
the different sets, the epoch. What are they called? Oh my gosh, my mind's not working.
Mine isn't too.
What the different ages,
The
different
ages, yeah, eras. But then there's like sets of eras, sets of ages. This could have been so far back we don't even know.
Mhm.
Because the well was so deep, that hole, whatever it was so deep that nobody had ever been able to find the depths of how deep it was. So, and I don't think that the animals were stupid enough to go fall in it. I think something was dragging them into it. Like I said, and the reptile-looking creature was probably a good candidate, but it was able to come in and out of that hole. And in the way that these lizards can crawl, you've seen them crawl on walls. They do it all the time. They'll be on the side of a wall. This thing could probably come out of a hole. There could be holes inside of the walls of the well where it comes out of and then crawls. It could be. And then they don't even go to the bottom of it. But this flying entity, this Lechusa, if you want to call it that, probably had a lot to do with the conjuring of the different beings, or this was a witch that was attracted.
Oops.
Sorry. This was a witch that was attracted to the area because of the energy from that hole. Do you want to say what you had to say about that?
I'm just going to read what I wrote you.
Okay.
I said, perhaps programmable matter, black goo, is government made, and that is how they infect Bigfoot, gets it in them, and changes their DNA structure, a type of liquid mind control, MK Ultra for cryptids. Bigfoot Dogman can't be found by normal means, so it takes an unnatural creation to track down an unnatural creation.
What do y'all think?
So you're saying like that it's that it's like a conduit for like a parasite or something?
It is.
'Cause that's what I think.
It is a type of parasite. It's a man-made parasite, but not just like with elements here on this earth. It's taking like dark soul energy and mixing it with earthly matter here, so that it can bind itself to the mind and soul of the creature. Or what am I trying to say here? So instead of like people get attacked by the flu or whatever and it makes you sick, well, this thing attaches to them, but it's two different entities. That's why you can see them fighting each other to try and he's trying to get it off of him, but because it's going to get inside him, and then with the programmable matter, it can release nanotechnology and attach to its brain, attach to its thoughts, and then become controlled. And that's the only way that the government is able to catch them and do their experiments on them and whatever, turn them into whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's just a. I'm wondering, somebody's made a comment about the 5G, and we were talking about 5G the other day. And, us in the room here, we were talking about it. I don't believe that 5G is real. I know it sounds crazy, but what I think it is, I think those towers are not made because we supposedly have 5G, yet our cell phones don't work any better than when they were 4G. I do not. I don't believe that that's what they are. I think these towers are something a lot more insidious. I think I think you see there's an uptick in these damn creatures too. Everybody and their dogs got a story. Hell, I mean, last night, when those guys were outside of the fire pit at the hotel, we have a hotel we do security at, and one of them, I don't even know these guys, and I sat down. One of them's name was Chris. And he started telling me about he used to work as a clamshell, whatever, on a barge. And he saw what he thinks he called it a La Llorona. He called it the La Llorona, but I think it was a damn water spirit. Like it was trying to summon him. He had to tell his boss, I need rest. I can't do this. There's this thing that keeps trying to get me to come to it. And he wanted to go to it. It was like a siren. So, I mean, he was telling me about it. And now he's become kind of obsessed with it. He was trying to get me to listen to a song about La Llorona or whatever. I said my wife wrote one about it. But I don't think that's really what. And it was there's a get this. There's a creek bed on I-10 in between Houston and San Antonio, and it's called Hollering Woman Creek. You drive on I-10, you'll see it. It says it right there, Hollering Woman Creek. I mean, that's and people claim that that's one of the La Llorona. It's these witch type entities or beings, whatever. But I think they gravitate toward one another, because I think some of these beings, they need a conduit. And I think that could be what 5G is there for, to send vibrations or signal to wake them up, to give them energy. And I think that before we had those towers, it was these people. They need like a human element, a human presence to spellcast and to give them energy and bring them out. So the people that were living on that land and have been living on that land and are living on that land, this land was probably already cursed long before they ever showed up. And looking now, talking to these people, we should go back and talk to the people from Hernandez Ranch and say, hey, what do you know about the I know we know some of the history going back to but let's go back further. They should go back maybe further and see if they have any sort of activity or whatever that could have been going on back in the day. And I mean by back in the day, the early 1800s to the Comanche time, You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like it could be further back. I was just talking to JoJo the other day. Well, I say the other day. It was like back in June. Like I said, I'd be like, you remember the other day? It was like, 2015? Yeah, it was a while ago. It was 9 years.
Technically, it was the other day.
I haven't called you in 9 years, and now I'm asking for money. Oops. But do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I wonder about that because I'm thinking that there could be something that's going back further and further every time. And then I think, why did I not think of this? Stella's like, because you're a dummy. Don't talk about me like that in the skit, Stella. Good. I think your brother thinks it's a goofball show. And he's entitled to his opinion. But, it's whatever. I don't know. I guess that's all we can say for now. We got to run, folks, because I got things to do. And it doesn't involve you. Right? I think you're too school. You're too school for cool.
Too close for schools.
You aren't. You are not. You think she's too close to school? Huh? That's the Mexican version of Zoolander. The whole people like, he's being racist. Hey, racist. Get him. The federal government will come down on him. He talked bad about them. They're going to take a list of everything bad he said. He talked bad about the Aggies. He talked bad about the federal government. He talked bad about, Mexican people, whatever, donkeys. I mean, the guy's heart was just get him, put him in a camp. He's a Russian bot. See, we got any good comments here? Anybody got any questions before we run quickly? Kyle Christic says, "Good night, paratroopers." Well, before you run, folks, we got to do the giveaway. Mm-hmm. So, and I'll be honest, we're not going to mail off till after Thanksgiving. So, but try to get us your emails because the time stamping of it. Okay, I got to look and say this email was sent this time, so I know when your giveaway was. If you don't email me for days, it's going to get lost in the shuffle. Okay, I'm just going to be honest, and then you're going to be like 2 or 3 months down the road. Hey, I won something back in November. Really? Because I don't think you did. Because it's not showing up. And Patrick Appleseed says, what books do I look up to reach the Church of Yugas? There's a lot of them. Look up the Vedas. Okay. But anyways, so if you've never won, your name has to be in green. I don't see a lot of green on there right now. And that connotates that you are like Stephen Rivas here. Okay. He's got the green. MJ Richards got the green. Lawrence Morgan. Well, you don't see it on him, but he's green. Those guys, well, not MJ Richards, he's not, but Stephen Rivas and those guys, that means that they paid for the membership. It's $5. It's $5, folks. It's nothing. But that away, if you haven't won and you are a member, that means you're a member. It's $5. Like I said, it's like $4.99, and then you can be eligible for the giveaway. We're giving away T-shirts right now until we can get. Oh God, we got to get over to the 7 o'clock.
So Holly and Stephen and Jennifer haven't won, and they're in green.
I thought Steven won recently.
Okay, then Bad Boy Channel hasn't won.
Holly Berry, you haven't won, Holly? We'll give Holly you. Okay, so then there we go. T-Toey, thank you. That's nice of you to gift them memberships.
Yes.
So Holly, you haven't won yet. I'm picking Holly. What do we got? Who else did you say hadn't won?
Bad Boy Channel said he hasn't won and he's a member.
Well, Stephen Rivas says he hasn't won either. So is Jennifer. Bad Boy Channel says he hasn't won. But he openly admits he's evil. So what do we do? I don't know. I think we should give him.
Really?
You admit that you're bad. But you do admit it. So that is, there's that. He admits he's evil.
And you're called Bad Boy, so you should get permission from your parents before giving out your information. You're not a bad man, you're a bad boy.
So Holly Berry, I chose you. Send me your email, your shirt size, and your address, so that we can send out. Somebody says, "How do I send the $5?" You got to buy a membership. There should be a button on. I don't know. How does that work? I don't even know.
Push the little.
So you click the little $ button that's down there next to the chat, like when you go to type a chat message, look to the right of the chat box, and there's a little $ button, and you can buy a membership there.
Okay. So who else did we have? Okay, so it has to be first come, first serve. So Holly Berry won, but there was people before her.
I think Jennifer was like one of the first to pipe up and say that she's never won.
Well, that's pretty crazy. Can you imagine? Jennifer, you must have been on YouTube for ages. Because can you imagine just being able to say your name is Jennifer and no one else has that?
Yeah.
When did you join YouTube? Was it back in like 1998? I mean, can you imagine just typing in Josh? Like, they're like, oh, this name's already taken. Like, so you got to be Josh something or other.
3.0.
Yeah, exactly. So Jennifer, that's going back a long ways. Seriously, if you can tell me, Jennifer, how long ago you joined YouTube?
Yes, a long time ago.
Yes, a long time.
Yeah, I have.
Yes. Okay, so do we choose her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got Jennifer. And then we got
Holly.
Was there anybody else? Because I know Bad Boy spoke up, but it was.
Yeah. Okay. Are you guys picking Bad Boy or?
Yeah, I mean, what? Why not?
Was there somebody else? I don't think there was anybody else, was there?
I don't
No, he was one of the first one to.
Oh, it was
to speak
Stephen
up.
Rivas. Well, Stephen's been around for a while too. Huh?
I don't know.
What are you saying? Say it
I
into the
don't know.
microphone.
Which one are you going to pick?
Well, what do you want to do?
I don't know. What do you want to do?
Okay, so who spoke up first? Let's see. Let's
I
go
don't
back.
remember.
Okay, so Bad Boy Channel spoke up first. Because it was Jennifer, and then Holly Berry, and then Bad Boy Channel. Those are the first three to say they haven't won.
Stephen was first.
Oh, yeah, he was.
He was first.
Yeah, it was Steven, then Jennifer, then Holly Berry.
But you know, it far be it from us to leave anybody out. We had 4 people last week, and one of them wasn't even a member. So we'll take you, bad boy. We'll take you, and we'll take Steven too. Okay. But get on that, guys. Get on that. Join, be a member, and participate in the chat so you guys can win.
Shirt sizes.
Shirt sizes. We need the shirt sizes that made me put a spell on you. Fireball or chain lightning or something. I'll do something to your butt.
Oh my.
A spell. You have to have a wand here.
Where's the wand?
Look around and find it.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so angry and I hate you. All I did was make fun of you and join your enemy's team, and now you're like against me. Enough of that fruitiness. He has a wand. Exactly. Yeah, exactly, Underfire. You can be careful, man. You're like, watch out, man. He has a wand. Stay back. Stay back. I don't really know how to use this, but I'll figure it out. I'll open some bottles. You'll be sorry. Believe me. Yeah, there we go. All winners. Send your mailing address and shirt size. And another good way to support the show, and we're planning, we talked about this the other night, is the Patreon. And so anybody who joins the Patreon, if you email us, let us know. I would suggest emailing us once or twice because that email fills up quickly. Nelly can tell you it fills up quickly.
It does somehow.
You can fill up. You can send it to us before it fills up, and then you can send it to Nelly too. If you got her on Facebook, she can, in case we don't get you, because sometimes getting a hold of them is easier. People get upset because they can't get a hold of me. Dude, I got a million
I'm
things
closing
going
my
on.
Facebook. I opened a new one, so because the other one's got way too many restrictions on it now. And there's
Marion
just a
says,
little-
I want to be a member, but my YouTube don't show it.
What?
And under fire, exactly. I'm a heretic.
A hairy.
Heretic! He don't believe. He believes in the anal knockies. He one time espoused that could be the case, and now we must hate him. Truth be told, I just don't like him. And just be honest. You don't like me.
Be honest, but be way over there. Far away.
Turns out I had the wand backwards. This is where the magic comes out. The claw. You won none.
Oh, JFA, you just showed up.
Uh-oh.
We're getting ready to leave.
Spellcast is my game. I'm gonna give you $100. What was his name? What was his character's name on that?
Ashley Schaefer.
Ashley Schaefer. Ashley Schaefer, BMW. Ashley Schaefer, BMW.
Oh, JFA says thanks for the shirt.
He got his shirt. Good for you. I'm glad you like it. Everybody, take pictures of you in your shirts, or at least take pictures of the stuff we send you, so you can put it on the Paranormal Roundtable, and people see that we're not full of shit. All right. Nobody wants to be full of shit. Truth is, I'm going to do and I'm going to say what I'm going to do and I'm going to say. Okay?
Yes.
Somebody asked me the other day, and this is a very nice person. This is Dina. She's been a listener to the show, and she was like, you should be big and have like a show like Coast to Coast. And I said, do you really think that they would put my ass on there to do any of that after all the things that I've done and said? After everything I've talked about, all of the controversial subjects and things I've done and said, from politics to, to economy to health, they're not going to do that. They're never going to give me that. The powers that be don't want that shit. They're not going to put you, there's no way they're going to do that. And then you got these damn evil people who just try to hamstring you at every turn because they're sick, for lack of a better, And when you come out and you just say, things aren't the way they're supposed to be, you're going to have enemies. And so this is what we got. We got YouTube and we got Rumble and we got Spotify and whatever. It's probably where it's going to be, where it's always going to be. I could have towed the line not given my opinions, not engaged anyone and let people be frauds and let people be basically criminal here and not called them out on it and just stayed, whatever, and let them attack me with their fake 1,000 accounts like that maniac up in Oklahoma and let them do whatever they're going to do. And then maybe I could have made it big to be whatever the hell you want to do. But that's not me. I don't want to make it that way. I don't care if I ever make it big or whatever. Because I want to be able to say what I want to say, and I'm going to tell the truth. And I want to expand your mind and help you open up. I don't want this bull crap. This needs to stop because it's the hoaxing.
Oh, it will.
You got channels of people throwing rocks and pretending like they're Bigfoot and getting away with it. And then having these people go on their show and then he's going on their show. He's a fraud. These people are frauds.
He's worse than a fraud.
There's more than just him. There's others too. They're fake. They're phony.
Vile.
I mean,
and when the truth comes out, you're all going to know.
And it's going to come out.
Yep.
And all these people that are running around, they're going to try to lie. Oh, I didn't know he was. Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
you knew he was that way.
Yeah, you did. And
don't say you didn't. And like I said, there's a few of them out there, and they are phony as a $3 bill. So it's, we may not ever make it to the big time or whatever. I don't know what the big time is now. What is it?
I don't know.
Being on a syndicated radio or something. Or is that correct? I don't even know what it is. I don't know. We'll never be big, coast to coast big, whatever, but we're not trying to be. If I had more time to focus into this.
Yeah, it would be great and fun.
Yeah, we could do it. I could do a show every night. I got enough material to last until the end of time.
Smurfy.
The elotape. But we don't have that kind of time, But God willing, we'll be around because this is something we like doing. We just enjoy doing it. And we're quickly approaching 40,000 members.
I
think. Yeah, on YouTube, I think we got like 30. What is it? I don't even know. 36. No, wait, 30. 38. Well, let me look. I'm not even in the chat over here.
38.2 something. Congratulations.
38.2. But let me look at the official numbers. 38,290 people on YouTube. Not bad. And they're real.
Yeah.
We're not buying subs. These goofballs are like, hey, check their numbers. Go check our numbers.
You guys are relying on people that don't know how to read it.
Well, the whole audience probably doesn't know how to read. Together, they probably have an IQ of 1. That's being generous. So, anyways, folks, you guys, paratroopers, we have the smartest audience.
Yes, we do. We
have. They don't know nothing.
Lucky.
If you're bullshitting, they know.
Oh yeah.
Like you're not going to bullshit us, okay? They come out there, and some of the people's stories I retell them, and they'll be like, "That guy was lying."
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he was. I don't know. I'm just trying to tell you what was said. I'm not coming out here and saying, "Hey, this is the gospel truth. This should be in the Bible." No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying this is what was told to me, okay? And then when someone comes on the show and they say something about whatever, that's what they say. Lots of people have told their stories on here. And people are like, I don't think that well, believe what you want if you don't want to believe. We've had open lines. We've had people come on there and say stuff.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you,
all
of you paratroopers.
Whatever. What's up, Rivos? Rivos here. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. What's up, Mullins? Late to the party. Elastic, what are you doing? I thought, was he here? I don't think
He's been here, yeah.
Well, you were here the whole time?
I've seen him here for a long time, yeah. He was saying some stuff in there. I was trying to keep up because everybody was so funny tonight. Like a lot of people were cracking me up. I was trying not to laugh because it was a serious subject, but pretty funny.
So yeah, do me a favor and hit that like button. And congratulations to the winners, Stephen Rivas, Bad Boy Channel, and who else? Holly Berry. I can't believe as long as Steven and Holly been around, they haven't won. And Jennifer, you won too.
Woo-hoo!
She's the original OJ. Original Jennifer.
She's
Like there's only one Jennifer on YouTube, and we got her.
We go.
She's like a celebrity. We have just a Jennifer with no numbers, no nothing. It's just Jennifer.
Don't leave, Jennifer.
Are you Jennifer Aniston? Don't lie. She's always had a crush on me, and I'm like,
Oh.
I'm married, lady. All right, back off. Witch.
We love you, Jenny.
Every time I open my mail, I'm like, Jennifer Aniston again. I'm like, look, oh, I done told you. How many times I gotta tell you? Leave me alone.
Then he wakes up from the dream.
And my wife's very nice about it, and she's like, Jennifer, gotta tell you, I loved you in Friends, but you and my husband can only be friends. Okay, stop with the news. Stop. I'm just like, New Year's resolution. Stop taking my clothes off for money.
Oh my.
I mean, come on. Okay. My OnlyFans is just big. It's huge. It's just blowing up. You know, every time I open my computer, it's like, I'm like, God, I don't need this in my life. Okay. These OnlyFans people they're just all over me. There's only so many sexy poses I can do. All right. Jeez, man. I like to live my life.
Only cryptids.
I want to put that behind me. It's in the past. Don't judge me from my past. What happened 5 days ago was that's in the past.
Kimberly's all, please no. She don't want no OnlyFans.
Who?
Kimberly Flores.
She says, please no.
She's all, please no. LOL.
Kimberly. You just haven't seen the goods. That's all it is. And you never will with that attitude. Although we do take credit card and PayPal. Anyways, folks, there is no OnlyFans. Not yet, anyway. No, we don't have any OnlyFans. We're good.
Codega abnormal fans.
D still with the Scorpion basketball. Come on, dude. So we've already decided it was you. You and Scorpion got to fight it out. They're gonna have to belly it out.
Oh my god.
Sumo belly. They have to fight.
Bonk.
One belly enters, one belly leaves, or whatever wins, whatever. All right. So, anyways, folks, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for making PRT what it is, which is the funniest time probably in the paranormal world, and it's the funnest time. Cryptids, the paranormal,
Yes. Thank you guys for always being so
normal.
fun in the chat.
They never will be.
No.
All right, guys, we love you all. Thank you, and congratulations to those that won. And thank you to the donations for Sugar Butches, Joe Pops, Curtis. Thank you, Tennessee Ridge Runner, Titoe, Jennifer, for becoming a member and immediately getting to win. That's pretty cool. And Jason Broussard, always great guy. Everybody always contributing, helping out. Just remember, we'll be back. We're gonna drop the show on Wednesday, and guess what? We don't know for sure, but I think we're gonna do a show Thanksgiving night.
Oh, that would be fun.
Because after you're done eating and stuffing your face with too much food,
You can come back and hear about Turkey Man.
Yeah, right.
Turkey
What
Man.
is better than having a Thanksgiving night with us?
What do you guys think about that?
And participate in the mad rush of shopping for things you don't need. Right?
Ask them. Let's see. Make sure they want to do it.
Yeah, are you guys down for a Thursday show or a Thanksgiving special? Would you? That's my turkey call. I actually get turkeys to come in like that, and they're right there at HEB in the frozen section. I can find them every time. It works. It just works. I'm telling you. I try it. You should try it.
I just realized what you were saying.
You walk around at the grocery store. There's an employee like, what are you doing? I'm finding turkeys. Can you not interrupt? They spook easily. Jeez, just go back to stocking the bread or whatever you're doing.
No, Joanne, what happened?
What happened?
She said, did you hear BMR's turkey tragedy?
BMR's turkey tragedy? Oh.
Yes, Kathy, we'll be praying for your grandbaby.
What happened?
He's in the ICU.
Oh, no.
NICU.
We hate to hear that.
Yeah.
Babies, children don't need to be Okay, guys. All right. So, lonely fans. Why you gotta say it like that, James? Why you gotta do me like that? Lonely fans. Yes, they are lonely people, and they like me. Okay. I do very well with people in nursing homes. They like the articles. Okay. They watch me for the articles. I read the articles. All right. Better Homes and Garden. All right. I'll see you guys. Thank you. See ya.
Good night.
You're on camera.
I am. Stop doing that to me.
Homely hands.
That's a good one. Anybody just want to interrupt you?